Cinphomaniac is full of spoilers. If the movie's there in the title, we're probably gonna say everything that happens in it. So don't fucking listen if you don't want to know.
To me, the great hope is just people who normally wouldn't make movies are going to be making them, and suddenly one day some little fat girl in Ohio is going to be the new Mozart, and make a beautiful film with her little father's camera. To me, the great hope is girl in Ohio is going to be the new Mozart. To me, the great hope is people who normally wouldn't make movies are going to be making them. To me, the great hope is Ohio is going to be the new Mozart. To me, the great hope is people who normally wouldn't make movies are going to be making. To me, the great hope is one day some little fat girl in Ohio is going to just people who normally wouldn't make movies in Ohio is making the new Mozart. Just people who normally wouldn't make new Mozart and be making. To me, the great hope girl in Ohio is going to make a Mozart beautiful film with her little father's camera recorder, and for once the so-called professionalism about moving Mozart destroyed forever, and it'll really become an art form. That's my opinion.
What's going on? How's it hanging?
Just doing some superhero shit right now. No big deal.
You're kidding.
Yeah. I would like to be kidding, but I actually am feeling myself right now. We got a new dryer, and
right.
Until my roommate was awake, so I could ask him to help me move it to the curb so it could be picked up tomorrow. But I just decided I was going to try it myself and see how far I could get it. And I moved it all the way by myself. I moved a dryer by myself to the curb.
Oh my goodness. That's
some superhero shit.
That's great though. That's great. You got seriously, what I was saying like a couple of weeks ago, like you need to get on She-Hulk. What's happening here?
Holy shit, I need to be on She-Hulk.
Yeah.
For sure.
I imagine they probably are wrapping up now the first season.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. But the second season they're gonna want no names.
Yeah, for sure. Like if we didn't put bets on this particularly when it came to breaking down all those Disney Plus shows, but like She-Hulk strikes me as one of the ones we'll get a season 2 of, like Loki. You know what I mean? Like
it's
that doesn't strike me as a one and done. Yeah.
Yeah, if they do it right, which I think they will.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you why. Yeah, I'll tell you why we're actually. I would say it's a guarantee because, one of the reasons I think She-Hulk exists, and maybe the deal will change, is because they finally have a way of doing Hulk, because they couldn't do Hulk because Universal was keeping the rights to the movies for Hulk. That's why they never did a Hulk solo movie.
Right.
So like this kind of gave them a reason to like, we can do the Hulk universe, but just like on Disney Plus, and they can't control us.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, who's to say? I mean, maybe Universal doesn't care anymore, and they're like, how we can't stop this juggernaut that is Fox Disney super group. And I mean, that's relevant because we're gonna be talking a bit about Free Guy today. Before we get to that, though, and I just to say the overall picture today is really covering kind of like what I kind of think is a strange phenomenon that's happening, I think, because of this year, where we're getting like the meat of summer movies in like August and September, like 3 months after. Usually August and September are dumping grounds for crap, and that's not the case this year.
But
that's not the case this year.
Do you think it's because so many movies that are typically in June, July got pushed?
Oh yeah, 100%. That's why. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I also think
August
it's like
usually like, these are the movies. It's like, you're gonna go see it because your kids are not in school, so we'll just feed you whatever crap.
Well, I think it's that's true, but like I think it's obviously just the fact that movies weren't coming out in June, July. These movies normally that's when they would come out for sure. That's really all the explanation you need. But I think it goes a little bit further if you're thinking about it, because it's like there's a concerted effort right now, and this is why the trades every week are talking about it. There's a concerted effort right now to revive movie going. Right. Like, and so it's like every week it's like,
but I mean, it's this, like, pandemic permitting.
I know, but okay. So maybe we should talk about this. You're saying pandemic permitting. Obviously, there's all the Delta variant concerns and all that. And the reality is the movie industry is pretending like that's not happening. And that's because they don't have a fucking choice at this point. And this is what I was saying for weeks. It's like, and this is kind of true of other industries and other quadrants. Like, I don't know how you're dealing with it in your job, but it's like the seal's been broken. It's like there's nothing that's even more difficult than trying to put that back on. So like, and it obviously a lot of invested interest doesn't want it back on no matter what happens. So
yeah. And I think that's definitely the business owner's perspective. That's definitely the owners of our bar's perspective is like, well, we're open. We're going to try to be open. My thing is just as a person who runs a popular bar in West Hollywood, I've noticed that as soon as the mask mandate came back, our sales plummeted at least 30%.
Oh, Jesus.
So it's not a matter of not being able to go. It's a matter of people choosing to not go out still. And I think if you live in a more liberal area like you and I do, you see that a lot more drastically, like, and immediately with the numbers. It's pretty nuts. Like the first week when they announced that masks were coming back, it was like previous years when Coachella was happening, when like everybody's just out of town.
Oh yeah, I remember it was madness. I got away. I got out of LA immediately when that was going on because I didn't want to deal with it.
yeah. It's like it's like a mass exodus. It's like all the bars are dead during Coachella, and it kind of really like felt like that. Initially, our sales are still a lot lower than they have been than previous months because people are not. Even our regulars are like, well, I got my shots, but I still don't feel like I should be.
I mean, I'll tell you what it is from my perspective. I mean, this probably does not apply to your customers. So I'm not saying this is like an actual prayer education, but it's just, perhaps it's coincidental at best, but maybe not. I don't know. I haven't been into any bars this entire like month and a half either. Like, and the reason is because it's not because I haven't been going out and doing things. I have. It's just I haven't been going to bars to do it because at this point, and again, it's like for me, this is just me. It's like that's not the attraction it used to be. Maybe it's because I know
for
that people are, but it's like I've gotten used to them not being in the picture, and I think other people have too. And it's like it's just I don't know.
I think it's this new mentality of like if I'm going to go out and risk getting sick, or if I'm going to go out and spend all this money, I want it to be something special, some kind of event.
Yeah.
It's got to be some kind of like event type thing where it's like, this is a one or like a show, like something.
Right. Because I've been going to shows and events. That's what I've been doing. Yeah.
But people are not risking it to go sit at a bar and watch TV.
Yeah.
100%. So yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely am seeing that. And for us, we're starting to plan like some events. I'm trying to get a baby goat in there more regularly, just hanging out. We've convinced
petting farm.
The owners,
you're turning it into a petting farm.
100%. We've convinced the owners that we need a mascot for the company and that it should be a goat. So we sent a bunch of goat farm information to them, and hopefully we'll have a goat that goes between all the bars. It's just our company goat.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
It's pretty fun, but also like they're therapy goats. So they're just like used to being around and being like petted and picked up and, given all the attention and stuff. They're used to it.
I didn't really know that. Sorry, excuse me. I didn't really know there was therapy goats. That's actually
there are therapy goats. Yeah, for sure.
You learn something new every day. Yeah. Well, no, so the thing with the movie industry though is, like they kind of can't put the seal back on. And theaters are opening. There's concerted efforts of theater. I noticed the Grove Theater is now an AMC theater. So that whole even the old theaters, which is another.
For me that's good. That means
for me it's good because I like my
pass,
right, you have the pass.
My Stubbs card. I have the Stubbs.
I'll tell you now. Now I think that's actually a good point. You're good marketing on AMC. They should be fucking sponsoring this podcast and paying us money.
Well, mostly me because I actually love it. I actually am always talking about AMC A-list.
AMC is kind of unavoidable because we have to talk about specific movie theater companies. But just so you know, rule number one, Dana, don't give any company a freaking free publicity unless they're paying us. All right, Jesus.
They're not paying us, but I do.
They're not paying us, so we don't give them any publicity. Okay. Now, that being said, yeah, no, that's actually a good point. I actually think I might invest in that now because now I have
it's at the Grove. It's closer to
I
you.
have the Grove, which is just like a theater I always go to. It's very close to me. And then I have the one on Sunset as well. So I have like two AMCs now within like walking distance as far as I'm concerned. So I think
the other good
yeah.
thing is if we go to movies together and we're on the Entourage, we can pick our seats together, even though we're ordering separately.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that.
I know. We it's like a little social thing. And be like, hey, Marcus, here's where I'm going to sit.
I like that.
And then you pick
a
seat next to me or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, no. So look, the theater business is, you know, trying to get its thing going. And it just so happens that because of that the studios have a lot of material that they've been saving and holding up. And like, so the release schedule has been very consistent. Like there's been a pretty major release every week since this thing really got picked up. Yeah.
I know. I feel like all of my Saturday morning, I'm like, well, I got to go see this. So.
Yeah, we got a new Marvel movie coming out in 2 weeks. The Shang-Chi film, which you know, I actually, when I went to go see Free Guy at I sent you a picture at the Chinese theater across the street at Capitan. They were doing the official premiere of Shang-Chi. So
awesome.
Had the red carpet. Like I was like, oh shit, red carpet. And I wasn't expecting to be Shang-Chi. So I was like, oh shit. And so it was cool. It was very cool. And I mean,
the preview looks insane. Yeah. I'm very excited. It's what's her name
I'm
from Crouching
excited.
Tiger.
Michelle Yeoh. Yeah.
It's gonna be amazing.
No, it's very excited. I think it's gonna be a really cool movie. And I think I was actually watching the red carpet event on YouTube after seeing it like in person, which is pretty funny. But you know, a lot of things that have come out from just that early reaction, and granted, you always got to take reactions from people that are going to the world premiere as like, well, they know that how to butter the bread to make sure they keep getting invited to those things. It's not like real critique, but you know, the reaction has been pretty positive. And one of the things that I think makes sense with what we've seen of the trailers and stuff is there's a lot in this movie that's like heavy spoilers that they are not showing.
Oh
yeah, which I think makes a lot of sense. I'm like, yeah,
well, sure.
Like they really played this one a lot closer to the chest than they typically, even by Marvel standards, I feel like. So and you know, Kevin Feige keeps teasing when he talks about it, keeps talking about like, oh, you know, this one goes back a long ways. You're talking about doing this movie like 15 years ago. So like there's no doubt there's like a reservoir of ideas and things that are like connective tissue that they've been like withholding. And cool. Also just like the vibe too, in relationship to that, people are like, yo, this movie gets like deep in like the mystical and like spiritual stuff, which again is not in the trailers really at all, but I can see that happening. And if so, I'm super fucking down for that. Like,
you know, I'm excited.
Yeah. So that's going to be very cool. But when we talk about what's going on this week, you know, I mentioned probably last week, and if people have been paying attention to the feed and paying attention to the extra stuff we've been putting out, and stay tuned because there's going to be more of that. You know, my mind share has been occupied elsewhere, and so I had to kind of catch up, if you will, the last like 2 days on some movies that have been coming out that I missed, and like kind of just really get into this weird late summer movie season that we're getting this year. So that's basically the key topic here today is those films. So we're going to talk about Free Guy, which actually proved to be a much more interesting movie than I ever thought it would be.
I thought you were going to like it after I saw it. I was like, it's not going to be one that you think you're going to walk into and like, but I think that
I saw the trailers and
will
was
end up walking out and being like, okay.
it's Ryan Reynolds. That's cool. But like, I don't give a shit about this. And you were like, it's really good. And then I saw some other reviews say it was really good. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a watch. But before I unpack the thoughts about that, I think we should actually start with a movie that honestly I have a lot less to say about than Free Guy, but I also watched last night, which was the Suicide Squad. So yeah, you saw it, right?
I did see it and I loved it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Suicide Squad, because obviously, even just mentioning Marvel, the Suicide Squad is directed and written by James Gunn, who did Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, He's going to be doing Volume 3 and a bunch of other Guardians specials. He's the Guardians guy. I mean, he has other films before that, and Suicide Squad definitely has some connective tissue to all those things. But it's interesting because he's the first guy really to go from Marvel to DC, and I guess now back to Marvel. The reasoning for that, the whole controversy with James Gunn and his old tweets and that whole thing, honestly, I don't feel like we need to get into it. If anything, it's a more appropriate conversation to have when we talk about, in like 3 years, Guardians 3 having come out, like what a reaction to that is, Or I guess the movie comes out when, and I think maybe
I thought it was 2022.
I think it might be, yeah. So we'll be
coming
talking
here.
about,
I think it's like 6 to 8
it's
months,
probably like a year
maybe
or
a
so
year
from now. But whatever. In any case, yeah, I think that's the more appropriate place to discuss the whole controversy if we even want to. But the point is, one thing that came out of it was that because James Gunn was let go from Marvel, Warner Brothers, being scrupulous and desperate, were like, will you work for us and do what you did there for us? and they said, and he did. And it's actually led recently to a few interesting little stray round comments from him about like the differences between working for Marvel versus working for DC, which aren't surprising. I mean, I'll point this out here too. We did our super, 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 super deep dive on all things MCU in the context of Black Widow and the Loki finale. That's an episode released a couple weeks back, so that's available for anyone to listen to. Definitely highly recommend you listen to that if you just want the whole picture. Another episode that we recorded when it came out months ago, but we have not released, but now would be definitely the time to release that. So I'll be working getting it out of the archive over the next week if possible. But that's our breakdown of Zack Snyder's The Snyder Cut, which was also kind of my unpacking house to walk through the whole DCEU Warner Brothers debacle. So again, I'm not going to try to get into that here now. I've already kind of spoken about all that. So if retroactively you are now listening to this after having heard that for some reason, you'll understand kind of like where the James Gunn entry point into this might be. And actually you might notice on the credits of Suicide Squad, Zack and Deborah Snyder are credited as executive producers. I have no idea.
That.
Yeah, I have no idea they had any
involvement
really in it.
Well, part of me was like wondering why that was, but then I was like, well, maybe
I think it's
it was
contractual.
Just like, it might be contractual, or it could just be like a thanks for making this transition nice and not being a dick about things.
Yeah, but that's the truth. The truth is Warner Brothers like definitely is
you think it's only
contract.
Yeah, but you think it's only contractual that they had to get credit?
I think there's a lot of weird stuff going on there. Like as we talked about,
there absolutely is. But I saw exactly when that happened. I was like, oh, interesting.
It is interesting. No, it's for sure interesting. And I'm sure, I don't know for a fact, but I'm sure James Gunn and Zack Snyder get along personally, but like that's different than the studio who ultimately decides who gets what credits,
right?
Feels about it. So yeah, my guess is it's contractual. Like all DCEU movies have to have them as EPs up until a certain point or something. That's my assumption, but I don't know.
I mean, I would think that you're right.
Yeah, but like I said, I think that Snyder and Gunn have some similar sensibilities. Gunn is definitely almost like, in some ways, the opposite, because everything with him is like a joke. But yeah, I mean, look, I think maybe the best way to start this is like, I know comparing it, this movie is, whether you like it or not, begging to be compared to Guardians. And on that note, Suicide Squad. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, for a second I thought we were talking about Free Guy, and I was like,
no. We're gonna get to Free Guy. We're gonna start with Suicide Squad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I agree with you on that on multiple points.
Yeah, it's the same filmmaker. He's obviously was hired to basically make a DC answer to Guardians here.
Yes.
Obviously, there's some differences. This is a rated R movie, and really wants you to know that. And it's DC, which I think Gunn is trying to reinvent the DC formula here quite a bit. And I think that's actually maybe one of the more interesting aspects of the film, but it's also very interesting to see the ways in which he is still a little bit tied in to what came before. And I think, I don't know to what extent that was him saying, no, I'm going to respect the audience enough to do that, or it was studio top down, like, we're going to let you do what you want. Because that's the thing he kept saying about like the difference between DC and Marvel is he's basically saying DC is incredibly hands off. They'll let me do whatever I want. I don't think he's lying because,
well, obviously, yeah.
No, he's very honest. I don't think he's lying, but I do think it's interesting. And if that's assuming there's not more to it than that, then I would imagine that, yes, it's Gunn saying, I'm going to respect the audience enough to keep some things consistent. But otherwise, he is trying to reinvent the idea of these DC movies. And I actually think the direction he took it is really cool. But the movie itself, and this is where I tie it back to the comparisons with Guardians. It's to my mind, it's not as good as Guardians or Guardians 2. I mean, that's just almost should go without saying to my mind. It's not as good as those movies.
I don't know. I enjoyed this very much.
Really?
I don't know if I liked it as much as Guardians 1, but I think I definitely liked it more than Guardians 2.
Is this where we got to bring that up again? Yes. Yeah. For the record, for people who haven't listened to that episode, where I ranked all the Marvel movies, I take Guardians 2 over Guardians 1.
I know.
Every fucking day of the week, and I don't care if anyone else agrees with me. But
good, because I don't.
Oh God, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't understand. I'm not going to try to rehash that, but okay, you either way, because it'd be difficult if you're like, I think it's better than 2, but less than 1. You don't think, or you do think it's better than 2?
Yes, I think it's better than 2, but I don't like it as much as 1 because of the shock value itself. But I do like the elements that they brought to this, which were more lighthearted. That was reminiscent of Guardians, like when they try to do something and it didn't work out action wise, like they're trying to accomplish stuff. They're trying to reach something and then they fall. It doesn't work out. Things like that, where I'm like, oh, that was unexpected. And I liked it. I think also part of this but I really liked the celebrity cameos in the beginning that were obviously mostly spoilers. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you're going to hear all the spoilers that were killed off fairly quickly. Like Nathan Fillion. I like that Pete Davidson had like
wait, who
lines.
was Fillion? Because I knew he was in it because of the credits,
He's,
but I wasn't sure who he was.
Arm detachable guy in the beginning. His arms detached. Oh
yeah, he had so much mask on, I couldn't tell. Okay,
he had mask on, and then his arms detached. The detachable man, I think, was the detachable guy.
No, he had like TDK or something. It was his weird name or something.
TDK, the detachable.
It's so confusing.
Something.
Wait, but just I think I just want to point out quickly that because you mentioned the whole unexpected thing. So this movie presented an interesting challenge to me because it was like, I can't tell anymore when I'm surprised when I'm watching a movie like this, or if it even matters if I am or not, because I come into this movie, even with like, I didn't have any actual spoilers, but I just know the premise. I understand enough about what Suicide Squad is, and I understand enough about who James Gunn is as a filmmaker to know that James Gunn's Suicide Squad is going to do certain things. And one of those things is kill off a lot of characters. Another one of those things is to try to have like twists and gags that are twists and twists that are gags and things like that. So like in a weird way, like, well, I was like, I kind of expected the quote unexpected of it to the point where I wasn't sure if I was ever surprised by anything or not.
Okay, so I think I was surprised by a couple of things. I really liked, and I don't know how other people feel about this, obviously, but I really liked that this kind of felt like the title maybe could have been Harley Quinn's Suicide Squad. And I'm a fan of that. I like that. My favorite moments in that movie were her. I think the best. I think you more mean like
Harley Quinn and the Suicide Squad.
Harley
because
Quinn
she
and
really
the
is
Suicide
separate
Squad.
from
She's
the
separate.
Group
Yeah, she's separate. Yeah, and that's just what I was getting to. Is like they have this elaborate plan to go save her, and she breaks herself out.
But that was in the trailer.
Oh. Yeah, of course it was in the trailer.
I know that was like a perfect example of like something that would have been funny if it wasn't in the trailer. I was like, I forgot. I already know this was going to happen.
It was still funny to me.
Okay. Fine.
I liked it. There was a lot of little moments like that where I was just like, oh, so the whole plot, so that whole thing.
They did. I really actually, can I just say that? I actually really do think the best all the best jokes were in the trailers, and that pissed me off. Like I try to not let that get to me in a movie, but
Sylvester Stallone's jokes
were
in the trailer.
No, that's fair. The King.
He was the shark.
No, the King Shark stuff.
He had a lot of stuff, like, because you didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about King Shark until the actual. I'm like, who is this character? I don't know if I even remember him from comics. Like, I can't really recall anything about him.
I guess his name is Nane. I couldn't. Every time they said it, I was like, "What the fuck are you saying?" I'm just gonna call him King Shark. But no. So I think that's fair. I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. You're right. A lot of the good King Shark and Polka Dot Man bits were not in the
Polka
trailers.
Dot Man bits.
So I know
really
I love that
and
stuff.
the rat girl stuff was all like,
yeah,
you know what?
I just want to back up for a second, though. I want to back up for a second just because like, I don't want anyone to keep listening to this to get too far without me just like clarifying that I do like this movie. I'm not like here to hate on the movie. I like it. It's just that I don't like it as much as those Guardians movies. And then that's the last I'll say about that comparison, at least directly. Really, though, like my take on it is that they just kind of put too much of the good stuff in the trailers. And if you're me and you know James Gunn's work, and then you see the trailers, and you also kind of know Suicide Squad, the comics, and like the style of it, again, it's cool. Like you're just like, it kind of conditions you to expect a certain thing. And that's what we got. And that's fine. I can take that, but it didn't leave a lot of room to surprise me, which is ironic because the whole thing that I would be expecting is surprising, but the types of surprises I'm just conditioned to kind of see ahead of a little too much. I don't know, but yeah, go on though. I just wanted to get all that out there so I didn't like confuse people about whether I was just kind of hating on it or something. Really not.
Yeah, I think I really like that they had all of those randos in the beginning that like get killed off, and I think it took me at least halfway through the movie to realize that Sylvester Stallone was King Shark.
I knew that going in. I knew that going in.
I did not realize. I was like, wait, is that his point?
I just think what's so funny about that, and granted, Sylvester Stallone was in Guardians too. Like, so James Gunn and him clearly have like a pre-existing relationship and friendship, which is awesome. But can you imagine, like, just still like you're Sylvester Stallone? Like Sylvester Stallone maybe doesn't get enough credit for maybe not taking himself too seriously because he's clearly being asked like, hey, you're going to voice the shark, and the whole bit is you're like doing the like people can't understand what you're saying. And you're like are kind of stupid. Obviously, the cool part about King Shark is as the movie goes on, you realize he's not as stupid as he seemed at first. And like, but like, it's still the joke is that he's like kind of doing a little bit of like a mentally handicapped thing, which is very un-PC, but like, because it's King Shark, they can kind of get away with it.
Yeah, he's a shark. He's a shark brain. I also was really pleased that they had Alice Braga on there just kind of as the straight woman. Like she's got
She's a good actor.
She's fantastic. Oh my gosh, she's a very talented person.
She was in We Are Who We Are, the Luca Guadagnino.
We Are Who We Are. She's I Am Legend. Also, is she the one in I Am Legend?
I don't. It's been forever since I've seen that, but probably.
Yeah. She's super talented. So I like that she was kind of the straight woman. Like she's like leading this revolution for her people. And then
she's
the Suicide Squad shows up, and then she's got like a couple of little one-liners that are just fantastic. So she was like a pleasant little surprise for me because I didn't realize she was in it either. I was a little, I don't know if anybody else felt like this, but like just off put by the weasel, just like, and I know that's maybe what they were going for. I
love the weasel.
I just want to barf.
I was disappointed the weasel was not in the main squad because like I just wanted the weasel all the time.
The weasel is the director's son, right? James Gunn's son.
No, I think it's his brother. Movies? I think it's his brother.
Oh, is it his brother?
Yeah, his brother.
That's fun.
I think it's even his older brother, but I could be wrong.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I was just super grossed out by the like eyes and the teeth and the like breathing. I was just like,
I love that. I love that. I love that he's still alive, so he can be in the Suicide Squad too.
yeah.
Him and Peacemaker. I mean, we didn't talk about
Peacemaker.
But hold on, before we talk about Peacemaker and Bloodsport, which actually I have a fair amount to say on because like they're the best parts of the movie. The other best part of the movie, and granted, I went back and forth on it a little bit because this is like, James Gunn again. I have to compare to Guardians because the formula for Guardians, which he replicates here, though, I think the balance is quite a bit different in this movie because of like let's embrace the hard R. It's kind of stupid DC characters. It's the Suicide Squad. It's literally supposed to be disposable people. The whole thing of like, but they have a heart, he doesn't, I'm not mocking it because he does it really well. And obviously the focus here is on Rat Trap or whatever, and Ratcatcher 2, which if you're a comics person, you understand what they're saying. And because your mom was Ratcatcher 1 or your dad was Ratcatcher 1. And it's like, that's the idea is like, that's a common comic thing is like, they just introduce the kid of somebody and then they replace them as the new supervillain.
They have the same powers.
But like, because canon, like fans want to like differentiate between the two, they'll call, Norman Osborn's Green Goblin 1 and Harry Osborn's Green Goblin 2. Like, you know what I mean? Or like Ned Leeds is Hobgoblin 3, like that kind of thing. So yeah, just getting, I just think Ratcatcher, that character, I mean, I thought the scene on the bus with Bloodsport, while at first I was like, this feels very forced and you get her flashback, I actually thought it by the end of it, I was like, that was pretty good.
I like that.
Yeah.
The flashback.
So I don't know if you caught it. You probably caught it at the very end once it was like, you get his close up. But her father in the flashbacks is played by Taika Waititi. Did you not catch that?
Wait, what? I think you cut out for a second.
Oh no, her father in the flashbacks is played by Taika Waititi.
Oh, of course, he's the Ratcatcher.
Yeah, well, that's what's so funny. So I thought it was him in the first flashback, and I was like, wow, I think that might have been Taika Waititi. I mean, if it was, that's crazy. That
I didn't catch it till the
got
second.
him. Obviously, he's also in Free Guy, but it's like so he's in two. Yeah, right. But like, it just like the fact that they would use him like, it's a blink if you'll miss it thing because you don't really talk, you don't really see him. It's just like maybe that's him because I could kind of tell by the face. But then obviously when he comes back at the end, it's like clearly him with a big close up and he's talking, which is the weird part because he's got his New Zealand accent and isn't the character supposed to be Portuguese? That's confusing.
I think so.
They're like, whatever, fuck it, who cares? They're like, but I just want to shout out because the actress who plays Ratcatcher, Daniela Melchior, she's like been in basically nothing. This is like her first movie.
That's what I was looking for. What else she's in?
Yeah, no, she's not like in anything. Nothing.
Yeah, so I kind of really like that I think her character, they didn't want to detract from the others by getting a big name. I think casting might have been like, you know what, this character needs to be introduced as a new character, and if we get a big name, it's going to take away from all these other big names. We're spending all this.
So it would have to be like a relatively. It would have to be like a big, like 22-year-old actress, which there are a few of, but like.
I mean, they could have got Elle Fanning. They could have got even. But then
if they got fucking Elle Fanning, they try to make her talk with like an accent, I would lose. I would be like, this is garbage.
Who else they could have got? That the girl from Kissing Booth. She would have been really, really good, but she's more of a name.
I'm so sick
now.
of her. Sorry.
But she's in everything. Yeah.
Joey King. That's
Joey King's in everything. I'm just saying they could have gone with a lot of people like those where it's like, oh, we've seen you in other stuff, but they didn't. They chose to go with an unknown. So I thought that was a super interesting casting choice. I
don't want to get too far on a tangent about this, but can I just say, because it's like on the front page of my letterbox, like that I'm even looking at right now. The Kissing Booth. What the fuck is the Kissing Booth? I haven't seen it. It's like the premise of these movies just that like, hey, it's me, I'm girl, and like two like himbos are like fighting over me. Is that the premise of 3 different movies?
I don't know.
You've not seen it? Okay.
No, I know about it.
Okay.
But I thought it was an old movie.
I'm just like, I thought because like I feel like it's a movie targeted at
like
teenage girls. And no, I don't think so. I don't think it's a remake, but it's a movie targeted at teenage girls. That's pretty obvious. That's why it's successful because they go crazy for it. And I'm just like, can we as a culture please get past this fucking shit? From the love of God, can we fucking please do it? And it's like the answer based on the kissing booth, it's like, no, we'll try to be woke in every other area, but like the only movies that we want teenage girls to see are movies where it's two guys fighting over them. I mean, maybe there's more to it. Maybe I'm oversimplifying. I've not seen the movie, granted.
No,
just the fact that there's three of them.
She kisses her crush at a kissing booth, and then it turns out that he's the brother of her best friend, so he's off limits according to the rules of their friendship pact. So then her life is turned upside down when she has to make a choice.
Way more. I fucking hate this way more because it fucking her heart. Oh, this is actually going to get me very fucking angry, actually.
Yeah, it's not for you,
fucking
Marcus. This movie's not for you.
No, but it's not even just that it's not for me. I feel like it's a fucking sickness. It's a fucking sickness in society, man. Like this shit that they fucking feed people where it's like, yeah, you should be possessive and like all this nonsense with your family. Like I hate that shit. That shit drives me fucking nuts. So
yeah, I don't know what kind of friends that I would have had that give me rules like that. But
I don't even care now because before I was like, oh, I don't want to offend people who like the kissing booth because maybe it's not for me. It's not for me. Well, you know what? It's not for me, but screw you, kissing booth. I don't mess with you. If that's what you're about, if that's the kind of values you're propagating, I will moralize. Screw you, kissing booth. I don't want anything to do with you. All right. I'd rather the values of people be based off the Suicide Squad, actually. Seriously, for all it's worth, the Suicide Squad has some decent values, I think. Like you know, but no. So look, I said I didn't have too much to say about it. I really don't. Because like I was trying to look for reasons to like kind of deepen my analysis of the film, and like I could try to like tie in the stuff where they're talking about South American geopolitics and like kind of coups and overthrows and that stuff. But honestly, it's like that while that stuff's there, and you could say it's some degree of commentary, especially like the quote reveal at the end. I'm like, that's a reveal. That's not a reveal. I assume that's what they were talking about the whole time. Again, maybe that's because I'm a cynical political mind where I assume that, yeah, obviously America's the one funding this. And like, of course, like I was like, that's supposed to be a twist or something. But yeah, maybe to other people, of course,
it's supposed to be a twist because Americans never see themselves as the bad guys.
True, but like, yeah,
so it's a shocker when you're like, by the way, we're the bad guys too.
Yeah, I guess more Americans are much more like in the Rick Flag zone, and then there's the peacemakers who are like, yeah, but I would kill every man, woman, and child if it meant that there was peace. Like, which that's another guy that was in the trailers, but I don't care. John Cena, the funniest thing in the whole movie by far. And I don't mean John Cena specifically, but this one particular moment, though he is probably the funniest thing in the movie overall.
He was very funny,
he always is. I know that if John Cena's in a movie, I'm going to laugh a lot. When he shows up in his tidy white, that's the fucking funniest thing ever. Just like, it's just a pure visual gag of just like, his body is stupid funny. Just like, what is going on? He's like a giant, like, it just doesn't even make sense to me. It just doesn't even make sense. Like there's ripped, there's jacked, there's big. He's like all those things like times a million in like the weirdest form factor ever. He's like, and they just love it. It's just like, he's just standing there. He's like, hey, like, and they're like, why are you in your underwears? I love, oh man, I forget the payoff he says at the end of that, but it was really funny. But it's cool. Yeah, I like seeing
a lot of fun Squad.
Peter Capaldi is always great as the thinker. I really liked I forget how you say his name, but David Dastmalchian. I'm butchering that, but he's one of the best character actors out there, and I'm glad to see like that he gets to do Polka Dot Man, and hopefully that'll lead to bigger parts for him. I think it.
Well, the only thing I can think of that I saw him in was Batman. He was the crazy guy in Batman, not the Dark Knight. Crazy guy, but like, yeah, in the Dark Knight, they switched in the name tags. Yeah. And I don't even know if he has any lines.
He's
in that.
Blade Runner 2049. He's in.
Oh yeah.
He's in Twin Peaks. He's in a lot of stuff. He's
looks like he belongs in Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Well, of course. I mean, yeah. To tell David Lynch, he already knew. But yeah. So. It just was this because I don't know. I'm not saying it right, but he's a great actor. I thought it was cool that they kept Kinnaman and as Rick Flag in there, because Rick Flag is an important character just to Suicide Squad lore. And so like it was important, which ties it back to what I was saying before, and we haven't directly explained or mentioned it. I don't want to say too much about it, but look, this movie is a reboot-quel in the truest sense. It's both a reboot and a sequel. And again, how James Gunn develops that, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily studio notes, or seemingly not. I'm sure when he pitched it, like that was part of the pitch and that what allowed them to do it. But I also feel like they begged him to make this movie, obviously, given the whole Marvel Guardian situation. So it's kind of like this thing where it's like, I'm going to respect that the DCEU exists. I'm going to respect that this other Suicide Squad movie, which was awful, it happened. But I'm really not going to be tied to it. I'll put Boomerang in it just because he'll be a fun character to kill in the beginning, and I can have some fun Australian jokes. It's like, yeah, I just want to get my Australian jokes and kill them off. Perfect. You put Pete Davidson in this movie so I can have a couple like Pete Davidson jokes and then kill him off. Put the fucking European weird guy in it so he can give Harley the staff and then whatever, kill him off. And he's just meant to be a visual guy, because this is the thing, like what Gunn seemed to do is he took the DCEU Suicide Squad, which means he inherited the Margot Robbie Harley Quinn, who's also in this Birds of Prey movie, which I know you saw, but I never did. So I have no idea what happens in that. I have no idea.
I love the Birds of Prey.
I have no idea what the timeline is at this point. I don't know if Gunn does either. I don't think he cares. I mean, that's one of the things
Honestly,
where it's like, I respect the audience, like but I don't give a shit.
Birds of Prey is before this movie.
Well, I assume
not only
it
in
is,
actual release, but in story, because she's not because that's right after her breakup with the Joker. So in this movie, she's already been broken up with the Joker for a minute.
Actually, something I want.
He's not even mentioned. I don't even think he's mentioned in this movie.
Well, he's not mentioned
but
directly.
But in Birds of Prey,
he's not mentioned directly.
Birds of Prey is about a breakup. Is about how she handles her breakup from Joker.
Okay, maybe we should talk about this because it ties into Harley Quinn's whole role in this movie and the character.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of fun with some of her scenes and set pieces, like the fight when she finally does start using the staff, and like that scene's really fucking cool. I thought her stuff in the third act, like from the whole what is it fucking what's the stupid name they keep saying, Milton. I thought the whole Milton thing was kind of funny. And obviously as soon as I saw this, the fact that the roof top is slightly ramped, I was like, oh, she's going to run off that thing and stab it with the spear. Of course. That was like the most obvious thing ever. As soon as the spear
is there and they show you this, that you see starfish, which by the way, if you see the giant starfish in the original comic books.
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah.
It literally looks just like, Patrick from SpongeBob SquarePants has an eye in the middle. And they literally just exactly copied it.
No, yeah. I love the whole Starro thing.
I don't know why part of me thought they would make Starro like, I don't know, more intimidating in a way. Like, don't get me wrong, it was gross and scary, but I think it could have been even grosser and scarier if it wasn't like pink, and I was still grossed out. No,
because before I get to
wanted it to be more like a disgusting, and it was in parts, like when it opens all the side slits and all the little ones come out, it's like slimy and stuff and gross. But yeah, I don't know. I think Starro in itself is such a cute.
Yeah, but so here's the thing about that. The reason Starro is the way is the same reason the costumes are the way they are in this movie for the most part, which again is like a little bit or a lot, depending on how you look at it, a little bit or a lot of bit at odds with this version of Harley Quinn that is inherited, for example. But like what they're trying to do is make Suicide Squad, the whole vibe of it, the fact that yes, it's an island nation, but the fact that it's jungle is kind of like, it gives it a Vietnam kind of flavor to it. They want this to feel like the 70s, early 80s era of DC Suicide Squad comics. That's what they want it to feel like. This is like, I think the aesthetic that speaks to Gunn, and like he just wants to put that out there. He doesn't give a shit about this past versions of DCEU being like, well, we're kind of realistic, but actually we're kind of punk. But actually it's whatever Zack Snyder wants it to be. But actually it's, so they're all over the fucking place. And he's like, I don't give a shit about any of that. I'll inherit what I inherit. But my Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad is bright and awkward and hyper detailed. And so therefore villains like Starro make perfect sense. Costumes like this make perfect sense. Polka Dot Man makes perfect sense. I want to get into the weird, like, D tiers of characters because that's the types of characters in Suicide Squad that make Suicide Squad fun because it's like everyone is disposable. You just kill them off.
It's so fantastic when Polka Dot Man, you see his point of view and everyone's his mom. Like, can't.
Well, you know what? The gag kind of didn't quite work for me until the final version of it, where it's like the kaiju kind of mom. That was, and that is the other reason I think he wanted Starro is I think he wanted like a bunch of grunts versus a giant monster thing because it looks like how the fuck could they win? And they really almost don't. But as soon as I saw that ramp is what I'm saying, I was like, oh, she's going to run up and spear that motherfucker. Obviously that's what's going to happen. So Harley Quinn's going to get the big L, but technically they parlay it with the rats, which is another obvious thing that was going to happen. I was like, the army of Ratatouilles is going to come and save the day. And then Bloodsport's going to be like, wow, like I realize I'm not scared of rats anymore. I knew all that was going to happen, and it's exactly what happened. But my point is that I think what's interesting to me about the Harley Quinn thing, because yes, that ending, great, cool, whatever. And you mentioned Birds of Prey is like, I don't get this character at all anymore. Like, because so Harley Quinn originally comes from the Batman animated series, like the Dini, yeah, but like that version of it. Is it Paul Dini? I don't want to mess up his name because he's really important figure in Batman lore because of this Batman the animated series thing. But in any case, Harley Quinn is one of the few times like a character introduced in an adaptation property, and not like was then brought into comics because she was so popular. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's hard for me to even recognize this because I grew up with that cartoon. I was obsessed with it. And so to me, Harley Quinn in some sense was always there, but to other people, it was like, that's a new thing. And it was actually the thing that even if you weren't super plugged into that cartoon, you just were immediately like, Harley Quinn, popular culture. She's everywhere. She's now the Joker's number 2. When you make a Batman video game, you expect her to be there. When you make a Batman anything, you expect her to be there. Right.
Sure.
Obviously she was never put into the Nolan movies. But as soon as they got out of that, I mean, that's the thing we have to remember. Harley Quinn, this version of Harley Quinn, the Margot Robbie Harley Quinn, was introduced in the first on-screen Harley Quinn. There was never a live action movie Harley Quinn until this one was introduced in the David Ayer's Suicide Squad, the 2016 film that was terrible, right? And remember what they were going for at the time. They had the Jared Leto Joker, who is like supposed to be some like, I don't know, like that's the stuff with all the tats and the grills. It's like, I don't know what the fuck they were going for. I can't even really explain it. It was like this, the vision of it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense with what Snyder was doing at all, even though they pretended it did. So it's like, I just don't get what that is. But more importantly, like, I think the takeaway, certainly in why she's in this movie is because, and why Birds of Prey happened is because, oh, that movie sucked, but Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn is fun and people like her. Yeah. Honestly, I don't. Like what? I don't. Margot Robbie.
There could be a better Harley Quinn. Who?
Okay, let me try to walk through this because like I know I'm not trying. I'm swearing I'm not trying to sling butt or be just contrarian. I'm saying I don't have Margot Robbie's a fantastic actor, and I'm not saying there's a better person to play her necessarily. I mean, it is always a little bit strange to me that you get an Australian. I mean, I know it's common, but like you get an Australian and then have her do this, not only like New York accent, but like this cartoonishly exaggerated version of it, which again, in the cartoon,
the Betty Boop voice.
Yeah. But in the cartoon kind of had a certain character.
The cartoon, she had even more of a baby voice.
Okay. But I also have like as a reference point, like you listen to, I don't think it's just been one person playing. I could be wrong about this, but I don't think it's just been one voice actor playing her in every piece of Batman and DC media over the years. I'm pretty sure it's been multiple people.
Usually,
yeah. And well, I mean, like even Joker, it's not just Mark Hamill's voices. And sometimes Troy Baker, sometimes it's other people. So it's like, I can understand that there's a set rhythm to it. And I don't think Margot Robbie's version is the best at that at all, quite frankly. And why would it be? It's like a weird thing for her to be doing. Now, I think at this point, having now this being the third movie she's done it in, she's pretty locked into it. And I don't know. It's not like I've gone back and never rewatched the original Suicide Squad, and I've never seen Birds of Prey. So I'm not saying it's gotten worse, but it definitely, to at least my memory, hasn't gotten better. I don't feel like the way she does is better. And it's not just about the voice, because really what I'm getting at is Harley Quinn as a character, like the character's creation, the way the character existed in the Batman animated series. It's like she's the Joker's girlfriend. Now, right. I understand comics, and even though I've never read any of these comics, I don't really understand. I assume comics have done some more experimenting in terms of like what else her character could be, right? Like her character, who's her character as her own person? Who's her character this? They try to give her a little bit of her origin story. I remember in the original Suicide Squad where it's like she was an actual therapist at Arkham Asylum who the Joker was able to basically convince to come to his side.
They do get into a little bit more of it in Birds of Prey.
Okay, yeah, that's what I want you to explain to me, because honestly, I don't understand why the character behaves the way she behaves at all. It's just like I don't get the joke anymore. I got it when I was 6 years old, and I was like, oh yeah, she's just goofy Joker's girlfriend. But like, why? I don't get it. I just don't get it, I guess is the really simple answer.
Yeah, I think it when you get a feel for her and some of the other girls as well, their backstory when you watch Birds of Prey, for sure, because it's these women that are trying to protect a young girl from suffering their same fate, essentially. So she kind of takes on, you see this sort of maternal protector type aspects of her character coming out. Which I think you see in some of the other films where she is, you think that she's just kind of out for herself. And then you see these moments when you're like, oh, she's making big sacrifices for the people that are around her. And you see that she actually does that throughout, her whole series, the whole series of her character. Yeah, I do just remember thinking they had like flashbacks of her as a child and like basically being abused and suffering and not wanting that to happen to this other girl that they came across, that the bird birds
yeah,
that the birds came across.
Okay. Like, this is where this is where I run into trouble, because obviously, like, again, James Gunn is a great character writer, especially for these types of characters. Like, he can make over the top characters relatable. That's what he's fucking good at. That's what he does in this movie with Polka Dot Man, with Ratcatcher, with Black, all of them. He does it. Like, I don't think it's like he can't do it. And I think what he does with Harley Quinn here is a good effort. But I think it's like, it can only take me so far with this character, because fundamentally this idea that no, she's a character, and it's like, I don't need to even be told her backstory. Just the premise that she's the girlfriend of the Joker, any version of that, right? I don't care if it's the Leto Joker or any Joker. It's like, oh, she must have had horrible things happen to her. It's almost like goes without saying. That kind of trauma can do a lot of things to people. I also understand that at the end of the day,
she doesn't have superpowers. Harley Quinn doesn't have any powers. Her real power is that she's immune to other people's poisons and chemicals, and she has a high pain tolerance. But she's not a superhero. She's a woman scorned. And I know she wasn't originally supposed to get a lot of attention. She was supposed to like be in the animated series like a little bit, and then they were just going to drop her. But I actually love that. I mean, people like me are probably the reason that they did that, is because it's like, whoa, who is this? I like her. I need to know more about her. I kind of am fascinated by this character.
Again, like coming from like my specific background with this character, like growing up, like to me, she's always been there. Like I love Harley Quinn as a concept. I like her as a feature. Like I would, I'd put Harley Quinn in everything. I don't like that's not the issue. And it's, again, I'm not even trying to pick on Margot Robbie's performance, because really if I have issues with Margot Robbie's performance, to me, it's because what the fuck is she actually being asked to do here? And I get the sense that James Gunn tried to figure that out, and he made an effort, but it's one of those things where I just felt like, is this actually working for me? And the answer is, other than when it's in a cool set piece and she's doing action and it's just cool to watch her kick ass, like not really anything. Like it's the jokes are hit or miss. Like I said, some of the what would have been her best jokes were ruined by the trailers putting him in there. And it's just like the general gimmick when it's laid naked to me is she says things that don't make sense and are stupid. Okay. But she's also someone who's a survivor of abuse and trauma and like cares about that and wants, like, that's how she relates to it. It's just patchwork. It's just too patchwork and too contradictory and too, like, for me, I can't follow it. I can't seriously invest in it is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. And if you can and other people can, great. I don't want to take that away from you, but it's just like, it just doesn't hold up to me. And I don't know if it even fundamentally can, is really what I'm saying. Like, because I feel like you'd have to like really radically rethink the character, I think, in order to create something that would work for me. That's just where I'm at with it,
I think I'm excited to see if they follow some of the comic book lore and some of the like actual old show, because I think she becomes like really good friends with Poison Ivy. Or possibly more than friends with Poison Ivy.
Really?
And
I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I don't remember the Dini animated or any comic I've ever seen. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if it exists. I'm sure you're right. I just like, what?
Yeah, it's like a later series, like in the 2010s, there was like a series that like because part of why Harley has some kind of powers is because Poison Ivy gave her an antidote that basically makes her immune to like toxins, including her own toxins, including
that would make sense with the whole
Poison
Jokerization thing. Like, which again is all sorts of retcons and contradictions involved in that I don't even try to keep that straight. I just accept it. Like, yeah, they have weird pale skin and maybe something to it, but depending on who's fucking writing it, it changes. So whatever. No, before we move off of the Suicide Squad, because we just somehow keep not mentioning him, but Idris Elba is, I think, fantastic in this movie as Bloodsport. And I mean, ditto Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, and that early scene with them going at each other's throats, literally, is like one of those scenes where it's like it kind of suddenly feels like you're in a different movie, but in a good way. Like, you're just like, all of a sudden you're in this like gritty, like, I'm in prison drama, and like just like I'm gonna fucking shank you in the goddamn neck if you keep fucking with me. And I was like, but Idris Elba is so perfect. Like, I like that he keeps his British accent, because like, honestly, if you want Idris Elba to give you that like unhinged Idris Elba thing, he's got to be doing his full accent. He's got to be Luther mode, basically.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah,
with the F's instead of the TH.
Yeah. Right.
Every TH word is replaced with an F, because that's the way that Idris Elba needs to get his message across, and I'm here for it. I am here for it.
Yeah, it just fucking takes on a different level of like street and gangster. That's like cool.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, no, I know you're making him sound like fucking I did. That's not at all how he sounds. But I had that like, I'm gonna fucking tell you. It's like I love him. I love him in this movie. But no, he's great. I like the dynamic between him and Cena right from the get-go. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. It's already become a huge meme on the internet. He's exactly like me, but better thing. Have you seen that?
Who's in the meme?
It's the first scene where you meet John Cena. He comes out of his prison cell, and the first words he says it, because Idris Elba's like, "You're saying he's exactly like me." The whole gimmick is Amanda Waller is saying, "Yeah, we picked your team because everybody has a unique set of skills," and she already recapped exactly what Bloodsport's background is, and then she says verbatim the exact same thing, talking about Peacemaker. And he's like, "Are you having a laugh?" Like, he's like literally like perplexed by this. And he's like, "You said everyone has unique skills," And then and then she's like, yeah. He's like, he's exactly like me. And then immediately seated like with a back, like the back of the hand tapping his chest, like, but better. So like the meme is literally just using that. He's exactly like me. And then it's like, but better. So like people use it in comparisons, like, because anything that evokes a comparison is going to be a meme format pretty much. It just makes it easy to plug and play. Like,
you're gonna have
compare
to
this to this. Oh, I'll send you. I have hundreds already.
I want the
memes. Yeah. It's good.
Send the memes, Marcus.
Yes, please. And so that scene where they storm the jungle compound and then they find out, oops, these people are on our side after they kill them all. That bit worked for me. Classic James Gunn-esque bit there. Those were the good parts. It's really the second act of the movie, while did have some interesting things, that's where the whole thing kind of just dragged for me quite a bit, honestly. And then the third act, kind of same thing. It was cool seeing Star. It was cool. I thought the actual way it concluded, even though it was predictable, was like satisfying. I was satisfying when they burst through the thing. I was satisfied. with the final kind of moment with Bloodsport where he's just like touching the rat. I thought, like, even though I knew it was coming the whole fucking movie, I thought it was a nice little touch.
Pet. Yeah,
the slow pet. I thought it was a nice touch. I mean, also just because it's a Gunn film and it's the Gunn super soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was good, but like, I mean, there's no comparing it to what he was doing in the Guardians soundtrack. And then even then, it's like it's kind of like he's kind of in a damned if he does, damned if he doesn't position with this, because if he went that same direction, then it would be like he was just copying himself, and what he was doing in Guardians was already, quote, copying other filmmakers. So it was like, you know what I mean? Because it's a complicated thing. I don't even want to try to unravel it too much, just to say that, like, I thought what he was doing in the soundtrack was interesting and worth a listen to, but it's just because he wasn't like going for like the big K-Belly super sounds of the 70s thing. Like it doesn't stand out the same way. And then some of the set piece choices are like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. Do another slow-mo through the rain stuff, whatever. Any other thoughts on it before we move on?
No, we can move on. I think we talked about the things.
We did. We talked about it a lot longer than I thought we were going to.
We did for a hot minute.
That's fine. It was all stuff worth saying. Okay. So, just before we get Free Guy, did you end up watching The Green Knight? Yes or no?
I did not.
Ooh, okay. No. So let me just say something real quick on that point, because if anyone in our audience like wants us to be talking about it or thinking about it, at some point it'd be cool to just unpack a little bit of The Green Knight, because it's like a very interesting and a movie that warrants the type of discussions that we tend to have, like where you really go deep into everything. And I'm definitely curious what you're gonna think, because like, I know you're big into a lot of mythologies, but are you into like Arthurian legend? Is that like something you're familiar with?
Yes.
Well,
I know all
you
about the Knights of the Round Table. Of course I'm going to see it. Okay. I know all of the Arthurian legends, and a lot of the mythologies. Don't disappoint the audience. I won't.
Seriously. When I know I have an expertise, I fucking go give that people this.
I'm
shit.
on it.
All right. Like,
I might have to wait till Saturday though.
All right. No worries.
I'll have time. But yeah.
I mean, yeah, and there's other things I want us to talk about. Speaking of which, just because I said it, I wanted to bring in my sister when we talked about it, and there might be, I have to confirm it with her, but there might be an opportunity as soon as next week to do it. Like if you haven't watched the other before movies, I think this would be a good time, and then we could do that episode next week if it's possible. If it's not possible, or if my sister's not ready yet, then we'll delay it another week. Maybe we'll do Green Knight. Maybe we'll do I have a couple other like older things that I'm kind of keen for us to talk about soon. But yeah, in any case, I went because Suicide Squad, I'll admit it in front of the free court. I cheated. I just watched it on HBO Max. Maybe. Okay. But I've been otherwise avoiding doing that. Free Guy, you had to see in theaters, so I saw it in the theater, and I was glad I did. It was a good theater experience, and it kind of played into a lot of how I feel about it. But you saw it first, so why don't you tell me kind of what your reaction to it, or like what even compelled you to watch it? Were you like just sold on the marketing? Like what? How did this happen?
No. I mean, first of all, Ryan Reynolds comedy. Yes, I'm in. I'm there.
Okay.
And then just the trailers look super fun, but I did walk in there expecting it to be like a little bit more for kids, and not that it wasn't for kids, it was absolutely for kids, but it's also very much for older gamers. I think there were references, there were some like references to some older games for sure, and I think that was part of the fun for me, for like 100%. And then if you've ever played any of these first person shooter games, I've heard there's got to be at least 3 or 4 times where you laughed out loud.
Yeah, hold on real quick, because what you said just reminded me of this. This is not something I said, though. I 100% agree with it. Someone else said this, and so I'm repeating it. This movie is like to Gen Z, like Zoomers, what like Scott Pilgrim is to millennials or people our age, like because you're right, there are little references for other people, and I think the perspective I come into this as one of those quote older gamers is interesting, which I'll get to, but it's this idea, the game itself, the Free City game is basically a loose hybrid of GTA Online and Fortnite. So it's just like it's clearly meant for the Fortnite crowd, which is all fucking 10 to 21-year-olds, you know. So it's Zoomer central. But yeah, go on, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the like the intro part where you realize, you know, this is his normal life, and it takes him a second to really realize that he's just a tertiary character in this video game world.
Yeah.
That was fun. I started really liking when it became a romantic comedy.
Yep.
And you realize, you know, you kind of see it coming, obviously, because the man who designed the video game is the man who designed Ryan Reynolds' character. But the little things like immediately when she ordered her coffee with 2 sugars and cream, I was like, oh, the guy who designed the game. I'm like, oh, Stranger Things put that in there as a nod to her. Like he did that on purpose because he has a thing for her. And then the movie continues. And
I like that you just called them
gum.
Stranger Things. It took me a second to get what you. Okay, sure.
That's his name.
Yeah.
So that I'll figure out his name at some point. I'm sorry.
The actor's Joe Keery, but yeah.
Joe Keery.
Yeah, his name in the movie is Keys, which is the stupidest name. Yeah.
Yeah,
Keys.
Even Alicia Keys' name is not Keys. It's like, come on.
Yeah, don't call yourself Keys. Come on, bro.
You a pianist? Anyway.
Yeah.
So I did like that it was sort of, and this story ended up being a love story. It ended up being, you know, this long road to love, essentially. Where you find out the person you love has been there all along. And there was even the moment where like she runs outside.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, why are you running? He was going to get you a coffee. He'll be right back. Like,
dude, I cannot believe you're bringing it up, and I jump in this, and like I have a lot more to say on the general topic. You mentioned the whole rom-com and stuff. I just cannot believe we got not 1 but 2 scenes of people like running to meet each other in the middle of the fucking road. And by the way, both times I worried that this was a setup for a gag where that one of them gets hit by a car.
Me too.
Oh yeah, I just can't not think that, you know. So it was like, no.
Well, it's if you've watched any of The Boys at the beginning of The Boys that show The Boys.
Yes, this is literally the opening scene of The Boys.
She's just gonna have two arms attached to him.
Oh my god. Yeah. See, I'm too traumatized by that. I'm too postmodern. I can't accept just pure Hollywood cheese for its own sake, to the point where it's no one gets hurt ever. Don't you know that? I'm like, I don't know, but someone's gonna get hurt. Like, you sure James Gunn didn't regret the last scene and then someone's head explodes? You sure? Yeah. Seriously. No, that's great. That's great. Yeah, like, so my reaction to this film, because like you said, you were like pretty high on it. That kind of was why I was like, all right, let me go see this so we can talk about it. And I did not know really what to expect. I mean, I understood the premise basically to an extent. But I didn't know what to expect. I figured it was going to be like, oh, it's Ryan Reynolds, so it's probably just going to be a relatively likable but otherwise middling film, which I don't think is untrue. I think that is an accurate description. But what I wasn't totally prepared for was that this film actually, I think, and we're going to start to unpack this, actually is saying a few interesting things, and actually is like kind of in a continuum that I always want our show to be kind of tracking and being aware of, especially as it pertains to a movie ad that's like is a big theatrical release, because it means a lot of people are seeing this, and it means a lot of people are, whether they are conscious of this or not, are being exposed to certain ideas that are being embedded in this movie, which is pretty strange given where this movie comes from, which we're also going to talk a little bit about. But I think an easy place to start on this is just to talk about this film's relationship to gaming culture, and that's where, again, where the Scott Pilgrim thing kind of comes into it. Because first off, movie's not as good as Scott Pilgrim. Let's not get that twisted. And I'm not just saying that because of my millennial bias. I'm saying it because I just don't think it is. I don't think anyone's saying that.
If I saw or liked Scott Pilgrim, I don't recall the movie at all. I might need to rewatch it. Well, because I didn't. No, I don't really remember. I might have seen it when it came out.
We talked about this when I went through my top movies. Did we talk about it?
Well, that's right. I did.
I mean, you didn't say that. You didn't say that. Then is what I'm saying.
I don't know if I've seen it or if I remember the plot being I remember the plot being. But I definitely got Grandma's Boy vibes from this movie.
Grandma's Boy, Grandma. Good call.
There's this eccentric gamer who wears a crazy coat who steals everybody's ideas.
No, the Antoine thing is just ripped right from Grandma's Boy.
Yeah.
But wait. So I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that's another movie that falls into this category, which is a
gamer culture.
Small, yeah, but like it's a pretty small category of films that this applies to, because typically a movie, it's either an adaptation of a literal video game or it's not. And like, there's obviously also Ready Player One, which, boy, does this movie make me think erase Ready Player One from the fucking world, please. For the love of fucking God, we don't need it. This movie replaced it. If you have an interest in watching Ready Player One, don't watch that. Just watch Free Guy. Sorry, Spielberg. Again, I'm continuing my streak of unintentionally, to some extent, hating on all things Spielberg. I swear to God, I do not hate Spielberg. It just so happens when he gets brought up, it's usually in a negative context. Okay, just so happens. But you don't need to see Ready Player One. Ready Player One also is gaming culture, but it's the really bad version, because it's like just IP like orgy on screen. And I love that this movie resisted that, even though we get our moments later, which we'll talk about. But just the idea of gaming culture itself. And I think the biggest thing that resonated the most with me on this, and it's something I connect with Zoomers on, is the presence of the streamers in the film. I was like, yo, is that Pokemon in a movie? That's so fucking funny.
Actual streaming gamers.
Yeah, it was like they have fucking ninja in it.
But
I was like, this is hilarious.
Apparently, one of my favorite things about the movie was Blake Lively's idea, which was at the end to have Captain America's shield and then have Captain America there and be like, what?
Wait, did Ryan give credit to Blake for that one too?
She did. He did give her credit.
Oh my God.
Her idea.
I gotta say something about this. Like this, God love Blake Lively, and God love that Ryan Reynolds stands up for his wife. Okay. But seriously, like, are we now trying to get into this thing? Because this is a level that just is not sustainable in a practical reality, where it's like, I need every other person who's ever in a room with me, who ever said something or gave me any quote note, to like get credit or praise. Like we're gonna be here all day, buddy. It just so happened it's a weird marketing propaganda, which is another thing with Ryan Reynolds. Is everything, not even accusing him of anything negative, but everything he does is a calculated thing. And this is being one of them. This is another way for him to generate some headlines, for him to generate some attention, for him to look good. Like he's white knighting for his wife. Like actually Blake deserves the writing credit for Deadpool. I'm sorry. Again, I feel bad laughing at it, because I'm just like, yo, if Blake wanted to write Deadpool 3, fucking hell yeah. But like, don't do the thing where you're like sitting there being like, well, actually she deserves the credit. But, you know, it's like, dude, like as a professional writer, let me tell you, like these process of whose name gets on a fucking script is not a joke, you know?
Yeah. No, it's not. But that's why I have to. That's why I have to shrug at it. I'm just like, what the? Well, yeah, but it's just like you have to do it a certain way, is what I'm saying. And if you're serious about it, you got to be serious about it. You can't just like. But of course, he's going to, because he's Ryan Reynolds, and this is, like I said, about driving headlines and clicks and attention for him and his movie. So, but yeah, just getting back to the whole thing, just like seeing the streamers on screen, and like not just once. It wasn't just like one cameo. It was like, at a certain point, they just kept cutting back to them every like 2 minutes. Like, I thought it was fucking cool. I thought it was cool that they were like really a part of this movie. Like they were live streaming the event. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So it's just like, that's a part of, quote, modern gaming culture and gaming culture in the sort of Zoomer world that I personally connect to, because I watch a lot of these streamers and just in general have like an appetite for Twitch and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was just fucking cool to see all that. And yeah, the movie is ultimately at its core a send up or a thing about gamer culture. But really what I'm interested in about this movie, because I just really said all that to get it out of the way, is all the other things actually about it, which are very interesting and maybe bigger minded. But starting with this, and this is what was enjoyable to me and why I'm glad I saw it in a theater. And you alluded to when you talked about the rom-com stuff, like this is a big Hollywood 4-quad cheese fest movie in a way that I didn't actually think we'd ever get again. And
I knew we would.
Dude, they've been gone for a minute, and there's no reason to think they'd be coming back. And to be fair, this movie like had a sort of a rocky road to get to our screen. So who fucking knows if we were going to, but like, it's weird. I realized I'd been missing it. I never liked those movies, but just their total and utter absence from culture, and my awareness of that generated a newfound appetite that I felt very satiated. Be like, look, it'd be like if all of a sudden you got rid of fucking like, you know, a certain type of fast food. I'm trying to think what it is, because I do eat fast food occasionally, or not even that occasionally. But like, if you just got rid of it, it'd be like, oh, I'm better off for it. It's not the good quality food I want to eat. But
you'll miss it.
I'll miss it. And I'll miss it more than I realize. And then if I fucking went somewhere and I saw like, holy shit, is that a fucking In-N-Out? I'd be like, oh my God. No, you know what? I can't even make that comparison, because In-N-Out would be like, this is not In-N-Out.
It's like good. Okay. It's like high quality.
I'm okay. Forget I try to use that
well
metaphor.
Thought out. There's no freezer at In-N-Out, Marcus.
I completely botched
those
that metaphor.
People plan ahead.
That was an epic fail of a metaphor. It does not work at all. Sorry. I apologize for wasting people's time with it. The point is there's a degree to which I just like subconsciously missed this movie's existence. I didn't even need to see it. Just having the awareness that was there and there for audiences, for people to fucking sip down big gulps and just munch popcorn and look like dumbasses. Good. We fucking need that. Like, this is really my point about it. And another way you like see this tangibly in the film is like, and this is something I did just viscerally connect to in a way I would never expect. Because normally, you know me, I'm a bit of a cinematography snob. I liked that this movie was big, dumb, bright, and colorful in a way that normally I would hate. I fucking loved that about it. Like, yeah, I was just like, yeah, just totally use all the overhead lighting possible. Fucking put the saturation up so goddamn high that Ryan Reynolds' skin looks burnt at all times. Please do it. Like, I was like, the fucking scene in the park, which is obviously where it really starts to go into like, oh, right, we're playing all those notes verbatim. We're not even trying to be subtle about it, right? Mm-hmm. I thought that was like, I thought that did it for me. The fact that you had those like dispersed little lights in the background, like the Christmas kind of like thing. I was like, it's like, yeah, man, fucking give me that shit. Give me that like fucking you know, that she's like, but I've always wanted you. like shit. It was perfect. Give me the fake out lean, and then but actually, like, give me all that. I mean, that's the other thing. It's just like this movie, especially in that scene and a lot of the scenes that followed, it not only had this quote love story, it had no problem being fucking sappy as fuck about it. I mean, the whole premise, even like, it's like, it was a girl who wokened him. It's like, that's all it takes. And they're literally fucking listening to Mariah Carey. Like, it's just like, I was like, this movie is like hitting notes that I just didn't think movies were going to hit anymore. And on paper, adorable. I was like, good, because I didn't like those notes. I'm like, I'm too cool for that. And then I'm like, I'm not too cool for
that. I like it.
Yo, you're not. But like, seriously, I still am too cool for it. But I don't want to deprive the world of it. And I'm happy that the world still gets it. You know what I mean? And so I really enjoyed it just because I was witnessing, no, there's still a place for this. There's still a place for this somewhere. I'm glad there is. I don't want it to just be Netflix kissing booth. Fuck kissing booth.
Yeah. No more kissing booth movies.
No more kissing booth. Kissing booth should be canceled. Seriously. I never would call for cancellations unless it's about the kissing booth. Kissing booth should be canceled. Seriously, get rid of it. I don't want to fucking see it. You're all canceled. There's no more fucking love triangle movies. They should all be canceled.
Very concerned with everyone's emotional health.
Yeah, I am.
Marcus.
I am.
I
very
like
concerned
it. It does
with
put out some unrealistic standards.
Again, I appreciate this movie did not have a love triangle. I mean, you could say it kind of did, but it didn't.
Yeah, it didn't.
It didn't. It kind of did I mean, that's interesting how they avoided that or cheated it, and it was whatever. We'll get to that. But yeah, just the sappiness I fucking loved. And Ryan Reynolds is good at playing sappy. I mean, they try to make him one of these rom-com guys back in the day. And, you know, it's like he still knows how to do that. I mean, even what he did with Deadpool is kind of ironically like had a lot of that. He knows people want to see it from him, actually. That's another reason he deserves a lot of credit here. And yeah, like we kind of already alluded to, this movie just leaned full bore into its cookie cutter happy ending. It's like, yeah, Guy doesn't get the girl, but he gets his friend, which is, let's be honest, Guy, despite all his lustings earlier, is clearly an asexual computer. So let's be real. Okay. And like, meanwhile, fucking Joe Keery, Stranger Things, Keys, whatever you want to call him, is like a fucking horny ass nerd who literally, I mean, I thought I actually was, I'm realizing now retroactively, I'm more glad about the way that went than I even thought I was. Because one of the things the movie did early on, the scene that introduces him when he's just talking to his friend, explaining his backstory, it wasn't clear yet how that was going to tie into the larger plot. So I actually did thought this was just shitty, stupid screenwriting to like try to give the character some like stakes that just were unnecessary. I was like, oh, right. He used to be important. And like, I actually liked the guy who was like, yeah, it just sounds like white privilege to me, which it totally did in that context. But like, I also was like, oh God, don't give me another fucking like pseudo incel character. Like it's 2000, like it's like 10 years ago. And that's still considered to be sympathetic. Like, seriously, I'm not like mourning the loss of this fucking guy who's just like on his computer all day. I'm on my computer, so I don't know about girls. Like, don't fucking do that. But they didn't really do that. What they did was, again, still pathetic, but like much more relatable and honest to some extent. But also,
like he didn't make a move, but he also shot his shot.
Well, actually, no, I should take back what I just said. It's more, well, no, I don't take it back. I just want to clarify. Like, it's more realistic and honest than the bad trope I was just alluding to. But it's obviously total Hollywood bullshit too, because obviously it's like, I'm sorry, you really want to tell me that Mr. Joe Keery and fucking Joey Cover were in a room all together all the time? This never came up before. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Like, that's just Hollywood bullshit right there. Like, oh yeah, it's like, no, but he's so chaste, and like that. It actually ties into the deeper rom-com tropes and origins of like the virtues of like chastity and like all that stuff. Like, that's such a key component, because like literally
for the rom-coms, yeah, it's like
who's Guy
allowed
himself,
to have what number and well, in what context is it desirable? Think
about it even from Guy's perspective, who is, for all intents and purposes, the actual romantic lead. That's what this movie does. It does this bait and switch thing where they let Guy be the romantic lead, but then because Guy's not really real, they can be like, well, actually, everything Guy said automatically retroactively applies to Joe Keery's character because he wrote Guy. So therefore, he is Guy. Therefore, he deserves to get the girl at the end. So they did that. That's a kind of the little gimmick that they pull there, which is how you get two separate scenes of characters running into cars. Or not getting hit by cars, I should say.
Not getting hit by cars.
Not getting hit by cars. Because like, I don't know what city they're in, but it's like implied to be like New York City. So it's like, dude, you cannot run into the street on fucking Fifth Avenue and not get hit
Nobody.
by a car.
Yeah.
What is
happening?
The fuck is happening? But anyway, I mean, it should be San Francisco through developers. I'm so confused by the non-set. That's another, I guess, just studio Hollywood thing. It's like, obviously in the game world, it's a fake city, but like the quote real world, it's like, what is this fake nondescript city that we're in here? Seriously, where the fuck are we? Like, we're clearly not in San Francisco. Are we in Canada? Like, it's probably shot there, but like, I have no idea where the fuck we are. No, but I'm just saying the way they do that little trick to just like transplant it onto Joe Keery. But like either way, whether you're talking about Guy or him, the central rom-com premise is that the characters are like these virginal ideals. And like, it's like, no, I just been waiting for you forever and ever. Like, I have no other life. I have no other interest unless it's a foil for your character that you will overcome. Like, which they didn't have that here. There was no romantic foils. Like, the lanes were fully open in both cases. And it was just a matter of the girl realizing, but I do love him. I loved you the whole time. Which honestly works better for the sort of quote virginal ideals of the whole rom-com stuff. It's like, no, you're the only guy for me. I am a true virgin. No other man has ever touched me. He's like, yes, no other man has ever touched you except for my virtual avatar, which doesn't count because he's me and your virtual avatar anyway. So therefore, no one's ever touched it. Like literally, it's actually kind of crazy now that I'm thinking about it. No one's ever touched
anybody.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, the only kiss early in the movie in Act 2 is actually fake. So literally no one's touched you. You are a perfect specimen of untouched everything. Like, God forbid you have an actual like history or life. Like we can't have that. It needs to be me, lonely computer boy, who's like just writing love poems to you for ages until you finally realize.
Waiting for you to notice.
Oh, but he was in love with me the whole time. Good thing I didn't sleep with anyone else. It runs off to him. Oh man, it's weird. But yeah, so you get all that cookie cutter stuff, which actually even the whole super virginal, because let's be real, the most virginal versions of these stories are what? Disney movies, the Disney princess shit. And this is a Disney movie, which it wasn't originally going to be, but like it's a Disney movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is a Disney movie. And so they know what they're doing, man. They're still repping their stuff here. Big time. Because yeah, so where this movie came from, which is important before we get into the next theme, which ironically has to do with it, is this was a movie produced at Fox. Now Fox made the Deadpool movie. So this is a film that like clearly exists because of the success of Deadpool, but unlike Deadpool, it's not IP, it's original. We know there's no doubt there's going to be a Free Guy 2 now, so it will be a franchise.
Yeah, 100%.
But like, it would be silly not to. Technically an original screenplay, which is a super rare thing in Hollywood these days. So it's an original screenplay being made by a big studio that has to now do all the groundwork of promoting it. And originally it was going to be Fox. Fox gets bought by Disney. This movie was supposed to come out last year. I believe they were going to dump it. Like they were just going to dump this shit in the middle of the pandemic and in the wake of Tenet. Because they were like, oh, Tenet, we'll just dump this or dump it somewhere else. Like it doesn't matter. And then they were like, because I didn't really actually think it was going to be successful. And I don't know if it was Ryan Reynolds fighting for it, just other people fighting for it. They held it. Comes out this summer now when the movie industry is really back in swing, and it's done super well. It's greatly outseeded expectations. Like people are down for this movie, which again just proves the magic of Ryan Reynolds, which is not just his on-screen personality. It's actually his off-screen marketing and gimmicking, including like Blake Lively wrote everything. Bullshit that he does. It's just to get headlines. He's very smart like this. That video that he did on his YouTube channel which again, he has his own YouTube channel where he just does these crazy Deadpool marketing stunts. Because he just used the Deadpool marketing on this. He literally got dressed up as Deadpool to talk about Free Guy. Like and have Taika Waititi there play Korg and have like the first official Deadpool MCU crossover technically. And they just like were like doing the Deadpool gimmick of like, I'm Deadpool played by Ryan Reynolds, but I'm basically just going to make fun of how stupid Ryan Reynolds is and how lame his movies are and how much I hate him. And make fun of other like facts about Deadpool and Fox and like Disney stuff. So it was good. It was good content. But yeah, so ironically, another major theme in this movie that I want to unpack a little bit is this idea of originality, because, this is a studio corporate film, but it's original, not a franchise. And yet like,
it's going to be,
but like the movie itself story is a critique of the game and the game industry with regards to originality. like that's the sort of weird spinny, like, snake eating its own tail Ouroboros about this whole fucking movie, which we're going to get a lot more into now, is that you have this corporate studio product made by now the biggest mega studio, Disney. And the whole thing is about how the IP machine that's Disney, whole thing is about how IP is this overrated bullshit that saps out creativity. It's what the whole Antoine thing is. He's like, oh, just make Free City 2. Who cares? I mean, honestly, everything with Antoine is like incredibly accurate to the types of bullshit we're dealing with right now in the games
with
industry.
The executives. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just like they're just, they don't care about the player base at all. They will try to milk players for every dollar. And ultimately they have no faith in their staff or their studios. They basically just want no originality. They want IP machines. They want games as live services. They want to say like, okay, like, oh, all your items and whatever, they don't transfer over to the new game. Are you kidding me? Then how are we going to make money selling it to you all over again?
Get all new skins for everything. Kidding?
Yeah, you got it. Like, I mean, that's such a like a so like accurate thing, unfortunately.
Right. It was little details like that I was like, maybe Marcus will like this movie.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I don't know that especially
that commentary for sure.
The second we started to get into that is when I started to really pay attention to the movie a lot more. So you're very much right there. It's like, oh, this is the stuff I pay attention to every day. So it's like the whole loot box gimmicks. And then even this idea, like I said, I was making fun of it because I thought it was just some cheap screenwriter backstory shit, even though it was accurate. But it ended up being like the central plot of the movie, actually, is this idea that Keyes, Joe Keery's character, and Jodie Comer's character were these indie developers. And honestly, the whole like pseudo couple indie developer thing is also a real thing, which I'm sure any of them who watched this movie got really uncomfortable car rides afterwards of like,
oh, wow.
I swear I'm not secretly in love with you, right? Oh, like really, seriously. But yeah. So that whole thing is such a real dynamic. And likewise is the dynamic of the duo indie developer making some really radical experimental game that's like, no, you just like watch these people and it's like a paradise and there's no conflict. Like that's such a real indie game thing. Like it's like definitely in like the kind of like similar not in terms of what happened to it, but like kind of like a No Man's Sky model or these different things where it's like, oh, we're building a truly limitless game that's procedurally generated and it'll just go on forever and blah blah blah. So that's a real dynamic, and the dynamic of getting bought by a studio and then a studio basically using that to steal your IP and not credit you is a very real thing. And again, it's ironic that Disney's making a movie about this. Not that I'm saying Disney has done what we're that verbatim, but just the idea they'll even wade into a territory where it's like, let's kind of put forward a critique of companies like stealing IP and like, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting that they let that be the story. Again, I think the church and state of games to movies, they're like, well, it's not the same. Okay. But yeah. And like, then there's like that whole, just like on top of everything, the motivations, like Antoine, this depiction of him as this egomaniac, like gamer bro, studio head. Yeah, that's a real thing. Like you point out Grandma's Boy, that was definitely more like a 2005 version of it, but it's even more of a real thing now where, and look, this movie, and it's a Disney movie, it never would, but this movie's coming out less than a month after the whole Activision Blizzard debacle, which if you don't know about, I'll just talk about a little bit because it's kind of relevant
break it
here.
down. I remember a little bit about it, but I don't remember everything.
So Activision Blizzard is basically like the biggest game company, and it started as the merger between Activision and Blizzard. Activision owns the Call of Duty franchise and other things. Blizzard owns fucking like Diablo, StarCraft, Warcraft, World of Warcraft, fucking Overwatch. So it's like the biggest game companies basically have been a game super company for like, I don't know, like 15 years now or something like that. And as a result, they have this like intense corporate culture. And when I say corporate, it's like game corporate. Like this is the thing, game culture, because of these personalities, like these Antoines. You have like the super CEOs at the top, like this guy Bobby Kotick is the head of it, and you know there's some Epstein stuff going on there, and just other weirdness. But then you have like the actual sort of like developers and game directors, and these guys, it came out that they've been fending off like multiple allegations. Like when I say multiple, I mean like a lot of sexual harassment, sexual assault. And this is not dissimilar to like what happened. Yeah. Ubisoft had this reckoning too. And because they're a French company, there's even a weirder thing where they're basically just like, no, we're just going to continue to sweep it under the rug and not pretend like it's not happening because we can. Activision Blizzard is actually getting sued by the state of California. The state of California is literally like, you guys what you're doing is so bad. We're suing you.
Right.
Like that's a really crazy thing. It is like they've had so many complaintiffs that like the state is like, we are basically creating a class action lawsuit against you, which is crazy. But no, so, and I mean, like some of the stuff, like the particular stories are so revolting, like you can't even imagine. Like, for instance, these guys literally, and they deny that there's a connection, which is like, okay, bros. They have a suite at a hotel where they have their convention every year called the Cosby Suite, where it's like a
Cosby Suite,
like as in Bill Cosby. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is where they put all the liquor and bring all the girls.
Oh, that sounds like a great idea.
That sounds really nice, right? It sounds great. It's like, oh, you know, we just thought it. That
actually sounds great. If they're not allowed to go in and you just watch old Cosby things and girls drinking there by themselves, that sounds great.
Oh God. Well, I'll just say that again, like the culture over there is like, this is how you get ahead in this company. You come to the Cosby Suite. It's basically what they're saying is like, it's like a psychotic date rape frat bro culture at this company.
It's a frat bro culture.
Yeah, but it's the most extreme version of it, which is ironic because people are like, oh, those aren't frat bros jocks. And like, these are all nerds. Like, no,
it's still a bully system.
It's actually worse. It's actually worse.
And abusers. Yeah.
It's worse. And then I mean, like that whole mythology, that's what I'm saying. That whole mythology has been shattered by recent times, and as it should be, because it's like, dude, that's a mirage. Let me tell you. These guys, the fact that these guys might have been desperate virgins in high school only makes their behavior now more likely to go to the extremes it goes to. I'm sorry. So the reality, and again, not to say that that's a given, it's to do with the other factors that kind of boil up to create like the confluence of power that these guys hold. Because literally, while a lot of the suits are like, and there was a girl killed herself, is awful. Like they would literally in meetings, like someone would walk in and would like, yeah, well, she's not getting a promotion until she blows me. Like literally just openly in front of everybody. This is the stuff they would say.
Wow.
Oh yeah. It's as bad as you can get. Like, honestly, I've read a lot of these like things about these toxic company cultures. The Blizzard, Activision Blizzard one is by far the worst that I've read. It's like, whoa, everything you can imagine to the nth extreme. So it's this is the gaming culture we're dealing with. So the idea of this Antoine character, I mean, it got to a point where, especially towards the end, where Jodie Comer kind of like confronts him. I'm kind of like, it's not going to be mentioned in a Disney movie, but I do feel like there's a weird subtext embedded in the fact that she doesn't work for him, but Keys does, you know? You know what I mean? Like, like it's interesting, but yeah, this overall critique and the egomania of him, it's like whether, even though they're not explicitly making it that he's a sexual predator in any way, the personality goes hand in hand with that. Right. Now let's, we talked about it a little bit, but I just want to give it a little bit more of a highlight just to kind of really kind of tie some things together, which is the unique power of Ryan Reynolds in Hollywood, right? Because it's pretty interesting. Ryan Reynolds is really one of the few, not only movie stars really left in the traditional sense, but he's a movie star for this era in a way that other people who are, quote, movie stars haven't been able to adapt to in the same way with the same level of savvy. And part of it is his role as this super producer. He is a super producer in his own right and like a super marketer. Like he's a one-man show, quite frankly.
Wow.
And this is a really impressive feat that I don't think anyone else has been able to quite do. Not even close, really. He does his own marketing. He picks his projects. He gets them made. He stars in them. He figures out how to make them mass appeal. You know, because like Deadpool technically is IP. It technically is from comic books. But you got to remember in the context, when Deadpool was getting made, no one thought that was going to be successful. No one wanted to make it. He was the one who got them to make it. So when it was a hit, and then he made Deadpool 2. And then it's like, oh, I have leverage here. I'm going to do this project. And again, it's interesting the way Ryan Reynolds is figured out how to use himself to make things, like I said, that are these big 4-quadrant, truly studio Hollywood films, but have their own flavor. Because like this film has some unique things, it has some flavors, but it also is not afraid to be cookie cutter sappy. Let Ryan Reynolds do the fucking rom-commy thing. Let him have like goofy jokes for kids. Like let him do all those things. Like he sells it all.
He's good at that.
He really does. And I mean, like he feels like this is a movie that like kind of takes place in this Fortnite world. But even though Ryan Reynolds is old enough that I feel like I grew up with the guy, I feel like the Zoomer audience is like, he's their guy. He's like, oh, he's Deadpool, right. And he's like Deadpool's in Fortnite, and then it's like, oh, he made a movie that's like Fortnite. It's like,
well, they know that. I mean, that's the target audience, sure.
God, this is just making me like, I was doing kind of. This is maybe because I have watched a little bit of like Fortnite kids, like, cause I don't know little kids, but I see the Fortnite kids on YouTube. Like I watch videos of it sometimes because like it's just fascinating to me. Like watching how crazy like 12-year-old boys go for Fortnite is like, it's truly magical. So like, it's easy for me to see like how Ryan Reynolds is like their guy, their guy. Cause it's just like, they're just like so jacked up on Mountain. They're basically all the little kids from Ricky Bobby's like, I'm jacked up on Mountain Dew. like, I'll kick your ass. Like they're just like these kids bouncing around, throwing their controllers and headsets, like just like, oh, like Fortnite, like they're just like crap. It's so funny. Fortnite culture is fucking hilarious to me. And
is it still happening? I felt like
it's happening.
Over Fortnite already.
No.
People were over it. Everyone's on Last of Us or moving on to other things.
No. Fortnite is not even close to done. Because they keep jacking it up full of more Mountain Dew, man. Like it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's already been released. I bet your fucking ass they're going to have Ryan Reynolds guy as a Fortnite skin soon. 100%. If it hasn't happened already, it's happening. I promise you. But they're just doing like aliens. Like they bring weird like 80s sci-fi and movie IP that little kids know nothing about. So like a little kid does not, I'm pretty sure most kids have no idea Rambo is a movie and they've never seen it, but they love their Rambo Fortnite skin. Like they run around Sylvester Stallone with like a red fucking bandana tie around his head, like, hey, and they're just like, oh, sick, Fortnite. It's just like blowing shit up. It's really funny. I mean, again, watch Free Guy. That's just again, like it's a little bit more in terms of gameplay concept. GTA Online, because it's like open world and it's like you got your hideout, you got your cars, you got your gadgets. It's like you're leveling up. But I think where it borrows from Fortnite is just like this idea of the emphasis on skins and the emphasis on these weapons and like just like kind of just being like crazy and like air diving in on parachutes. Like that's kind of the Fortnite thing.
Right, exactly. Or have the gliders.
Yeah, the gliders, right. So there's no like craft. We don't ever see really crafting. So that's the thing that's missing. But yeah, it's interesting. But I was just gonna say, getting back to Ryan Reynolds and stuff, it's also interesting who chose to partner with this. I mentioned Joe Keery being from Stranger Things, but that has a lot to do with the fact this movie's directed by Shawn Levy, who is the partner of the Duffer Brothers in creating Stranger Things, and directs a couple episodes of that every season, and is seemingly a cool guy, but he goes back to the old like days of Hollywood steady hand journeyman type directors, and I think that's actually again cool. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like this movie has a weird way of making things that I otherwise would have taken for granted kind of cool to me, because I just thought that they were disappearing, and I'm glad to see they exist. Same thing with the screenwriting. Like this movie was written by John Lieberman and Zach Penn, and Zach Penn is one of those old screenwriting hands. Like he was like involved in early MCU movies, yeah, just I don't know, get him on it. Like they just slap together a script. Like I like that. It's cool to see all that kind of come back. And Ryan Reynolds' like power as a star, I think, lends itself to being able to get these cool crossovers and cameos and getting Disney to not only want to do it, but be like, hell yeah, let's do it. Like the Fortniteization of movies is Ryan Reynolds' thing, which is again why I think this movie works, whereas the bullshit IP orgy of Ready Player One or the Space Jam movie don't work. Is like, here you actually have like Ryan Reynolds, like he'll call up Chris Evans on the phone and be like, yo, bro, just come to the restaurant in 2 hours and I'll have a camera there. That's literally how that happened.
Yeah, easy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, by the way, what do you think of that?
At the most.
What do you think of that moment?
Oh, that was amazing. And then he pulls out the Hulk hand, and then he's got the balloon hammer thing from Fortnite. Like that was one of my favorites, when he pulls out all of the weapons from all the other games.
That was cool.
That was a Fortnite thing.
They had the portal gun earlier. So
the portal gun 2 was back. Yeah.
They had the portal gun and stuff earlier, but like they really kind of saved it all for the last minute, which again, like this stuff came into the movie last minute. So that makes sense, but it was like kind of perfectly timed and executed, I would say. The lightsaber fight, that was awesome. Yeah. So they're just like, yeah, like, they just like Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, I just like wrote a quick email to like Kevin Feige, like then Kathleen Kennedy was like, can we do this? And they're like, yeah. so it's just like I like it when I hear about stuff like that. It's kind of just like cool that whether it's Ryan Reynolds clout specifically or just like studios within internal studio just being like, yeah, we're game. It's cool. It has to be a bit of both, because I'm sure if some other projects, I don't think they would have been like, if Jungle Cruise wanted to just suddenly have Star Wars music, I don't know if they would have been down. I don't know. That's not an example that really makes sense, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. So I think again, the power of Ryan Reynolds should never be underestimated. The success of this
movie he knows what he's doing.
But now,
for sure.
Yeah, now kind of is the time I want to get to what I really want to talk about with this movie. I wanted to get all that stuff out of the way, which, it might tie in back to what we're about to start talking about. But like what this movie's actually about is what surprised me and like made me like, oh, like this movie actually is saying something, and something that like, again, I feel like is part of the ethos of what I want our podcast to always be paying attention to in films, because this is how stuff gets into the public consciousness, and it has something to say. Like this movie actually has something to say about society, is what I'm getting at. Now, are you familiar with the NPC meme? Like, do you know what I'm talking about? I can elaborate a little more, and maybe
an NPC meme.
Okay, so what I'm talking about is like, people on the internet, like people on Reddit or like forums, will call people like NPCs.
Like the face with the guy, like the gray face guys.
I mean, I'm sure there's
memes.
visual representations of it, but what I just mean, just even the idea of like calling someone an NPC, like you've ever heard people doing this?
Yeah, it just means you don't really care. You're like boring, bland, right?
Exactly. Or that your responses or your thinking sounds like it's from a fucking script.
Yeah.
Right? Because somebody would say like, oh, super scripted, like you're like a character in like Skyrim or Oblivion, like it's one of these Bethesda games where it's like, yes, sir, but no. Whether they have like weird, just like non sequitur reactions to things, or like, how dare you? And then like 2 seconds later, like, oh, I love you. Like it's like depending on your dialogue tree choice, you know. So there's a lot, and then there's like a lot of literal memes, like using different things, like I just was talking about, like Skyrim stuff or Oblivion stuff or Fallout stuff, to create like memes where the humor, the joke is like how stupid and random NPCs and dialogue tree scripts can get, or just like the way dumb glitches in a game might happen with NPCs. But what I want to focus on is this idea of this practice that's become a thing. I don't know if it's not really as in style as it was a few years ago, I feel like, but the concept, I think, persists in this movie. To me, the premise of this movie is deeply tied into this concept, which is calling another human being an NPC. Because what does that really imply? Like, what's really being said there? Like, why would that be a thing in people's minds is what I'm trying to unpack here. So,
well, I mean, it's an insult. It's
an insult. Right. This is exactly
like
what
calling
I'm
someone
it's
a
an
noob.
Insult. It's an insult, right? But like, whereas noob, it's kind of this straightforward thing of like, oh, you're new to something, and they use it in a lot. And they keep
you haven't been here yet.
Yeah, you haven't been here. You don't know anything. But the idea of the NPC as an insult is very interesting, because I think why it's insulting is somewhat obvious. It's like saying that you're not a free thinker. You're not someone who has intelligence. You're not someone who can make decisions for yourself. You don't have agency. You're not a player character. You don't have the agency a player character who can actually impact the world has. You are stuck in that. You are stuck in this net. You operate on a loop. You follow a script. You don't have free will, essentially. So this idea, that that's fundamentally insulting to human beings who virtuize all those factors that we're saying an NPC doesn't have, that we have free will, that we determine our own lives, that we are heroes and agents, we affect things. Like most stories, the reason we focus on heroes or main characters is we want to fundamentally believe in the idea that we impact the world, that what we do matters, that we have agency, that we have things. But the reality is, or the question I should say, because it's not an explicit reality one way or other, the fundamental question that this drives at is, well, depending on who you're talking about, like we have a different degree of agency. The president of the United States certainly has like more ability to seemingly impact the world than I do as an individual, right? Mm-hmm. So it goes as a question, like, are our stories, are our mythologies, are our ideas, are like this fundamental aspect of a main character? It's like, it begs the question, well, what are we? Are we that? Can everybody be that? It doesn't seem like that's possible, because part of the ethos of this is that these are like reserved for special individuals who actually do things, and everybody else is just a background person. Mm-hmm. And so we all want to believe that we're the former, but by definition, by probability, if that paradigm's true, we must be the latter, right? So there's this fundamental insecurity in the human psyche with regards to our society. And that joke, calling someone an NPC, drives that out. Like, I think to whatever degree a person's genuinely been insulted by this claim, would have to do with like that level of insecurity. And I think unlike some insecurities, this is an insecurity almost worth having, in the sense that I think that we need to fundamentally question which we are. And not just as individuals, but collectively. Do we want to live in a society where most of us have no say? Where most of us, whether we quote follow a script or not, are certainly expected to follow a script, right?
Right. To go to do what we're supposed to do. Go to the bank.
And look,
get our coffee with 2 sugars.
Right. So having seen the film, I'm sure you're already kind of getting some ideas of like how this applies to this film. I mean, because look, the whole way we're introduced to Guy and Guy's world is all those things. He's on a loop. He's on a script. He's supposed to do things. Even the slightest deviation, like I want to order a cappuccino, is met with like, you are breaking the fucking matrix of the universe by even having the slightest deviation from the sort of norm core of this world, right? Mm-hmm. So this really does, to me, reflect again a fundamental insecurity and a very potentially real, I would assert, certainly real problem in society, which is that most of us, no matter how we perceive ourselves, have some fundamental limits to what we can do, what we can affect. We're not given the player character code, if you will. We're given the NPC code. And this then, if you accept that framing, what does this story tell us? What is this story about? If we have more in common, any one of us, with the NPCs in Free City than we do the player characters, what does this tell us about the story of Guy and the story of the Free City in regards to this movie? Well, it's interesting because it seems like, to me, if you track the story, it starts with Guy and he discovers that he does have choice. This movie has a lot more in common with The Matrix, honestly, than I think people realize too. Or maybe that's very obvious. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you got Matrix vibes from this or not.
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, he's the world, and then he realizes the world he knows is not as he knows it.
I mean, fundamentally 100% that, but even the quote differences between the one world.
It's like a badass woman that shows him the way.
Also true. But fundamentally, like the differences between the two experiences.
Oh, and he's there to save he's there to save them all.
He's there to save them all. But I really what I'm really driving at the differences between the two experiences in both The Matrix and this, right? In The Matrix, and literally in The Matrix, Neo is what? He's a corporate drone who has to keep to himself. The fact that he's secretly a hacker at night is just that, a secret. It's not something he can just be, right? Guy, similar thing. Guy is supposed to follow a script, but as we learn, the NPCs in Free City are actually fully functional AI that are constantly learning. But this is the thing, like, I think the movie kind of explains, but doesn't really. But if you watch it and like look at the cause and effect of actions or how certain things are represented, I think this is a fair assessment of what's really going on here. Because the movie later tries to point you, it was the girl who woke him up. And I'm like, kinda. It's not really that actually at all if you pay attention to the film. What it really is, and what it is for all the other characters who did not experience that girl, right? Mm-hmm. Because he later gets them all to kind of awaken, or it's revealed that they've been awakening the whole time, which is my point, right? Because remember, there's that scene. There's that scene
where they were like, "Oh, she learned how to go make a cappuccino.
She was writing a memoir.
She wrote a memoir about the patriarchy." Yeah.
Right. So what this is implying is that all these quote NPCs have the complexity and intelligence of a real living being, of a player character. They've already been learning and experiencing the whole time. That's not what's fundamentally keeping them at bay and on script. It's not the ability. It's not the lack. It's not the actual limits of anything. What it is perception. They believe the script is all there is. They believe that they're supposed to follow these roles. And it's a matter of them individually awakening and deciding that that's not for them. So they all lived these secret lives as these very intelligent, highly functional agents, but don't act on it. Guy doesn't act on it, but the story tells us from Guy's perspective. So even before he runs into Jodie Comer, we know that there's a little bit more going on up there than his behavior.
There's a little bit more. Mm-hmm.
Right. Because he's been learning the whole time. He suppresses it. He suppresses it to conform to society.
I mean, that the little nod at the end where you understand, because they're like, we don't know why he does this every morning with the mini blinds.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the end, we find out why he was doing that every morning.
Yes.
Just that alone.
Yeah. So, right, exactly. So like, this idea of suppression, right? So that's just like Neo. Neo suppresses his true nature in order to conform to this society. And so what the stepping into the Matrix is, just like when like Neo literally gets unjacked, Guy gets the glasses, right? Stepping into the Matrix is this confusing, jarring experience. It's not like you can just immediately adapt to it. You have to learn. You have to kind of get there. But the point is, you're not necessarily just recreating yourself wholesale. You are allowing the self that was always there to be exposed to the light, to flourish, to grow. And that's what makes it, honestly, not only special, but fundamentally relatable and fundamentally necessary to contend with, to the real human experience, whether you're talking about the Matrix or Free Guy. But what happens once you are on the other side of it? What's there left to do? Well, what's left to do is to, just like in the Matrix, it's like, it's not good enough that Neo's free. He needs to free the other people, everyone. Right? Because he fundamentally, to get to that other side, is to fundamentally recognize the injustice or imbalance of that scenario. In Free Guy, they give it a little bit, they're not as obviously overtly philosophical as the Wachowskis are. So of course they need to give it a more like direct points of drive for Guy. One is obviously just wanting to get to know Jodie Comer, the girl, better. The other is, oh no, Free City's going to get shut down. So he has to, in order to save people from, getting deleted, if you will. But it's honestly pretty haphazardly handled in the film, and it just makes me think that, like, whether the screenwriters were aware of it or not, their own desires to kind of break free and tell that Matrix story on those terms was probably there to some extent. And that's where, like, the movie has like a bit of a slow slog in the late second act, early third act that kind of just like is like, until you get to that Channing Tatum scene. Where they're in his that's a great scene. I love Channing Tatum in this. Like,
he's hysterical in this.
Oh my god, yeah.
The guy that's
the real him
playing, the guy that's playing with the mom, screaming at the mom, I think was,
Mom, do not look at that sock or you will be haunted for the rest of your life.
And then the fact that he's like keeping her updated with stuff that's happening in the game too. He's like, Mom, this is happening. I'm like, she doesn't care. But
oh man, it's a little too real, because believe me, a lot of people are living like that.
It's amazing. Amazing. A lot of
those people have a somewhat or very unhealthy interest in the Matrix, ironically. But either way, that fundamental drive of like what that's about and what this is about. So yeah, you get the Channing Tatum scene is this fun kind of thing, puts some juice and life back into the film, and then you get to the end. And I think what's really important to focus here on, where I'm going with all this, is that not only is this movie a movie where it's like saying originality is good, like don't be a sellout to IP, like don't let your IP get stolen if you're, one of these Joe Carrier or Jodie Comer. Like, it's also telling a story of, they literally say it in the movie, which like, because I was already getting this vibe hard, and then they fucking said it, and I was like fist pumping, because I was like, yes, I don't care if anyone else understands this. You're putting the ideas in people's fucking heads. Okay, what I'm talking about is when Guy starts to get the other NPCs, the other regular folk, the other working people of this world together, they are saying is like, we're fucking, the answer to our problem is not me trying to fight some giant monster or me trying to just run by myself through some tunnel. The answer is we all have to go on strike. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh shit. Like, this movie has like genuine, like a thought and a collective kind of perspective and value that just is not only normally absent from like big Hollywood films, it's almost the point. And I think that, again, this movie, I don't think anyone's creating it had this intention explicitly. I mean, Ryan Reynolds seems like a pretty chill guy, so maybe he had something to do with it. I don't know. But I think it's actually just something that the movie organically walked into because of the conditions that the movie was attempting to examine just by definition. Like, what I mean is it just couldn't come down to just Guy just doing this. Like, how was that going to work? He needed to get everybody else on board.
Everyone on board.
Right. So the movie kind of just walks itself into that. And then you have these themes where it's like, You have the bad guy is the boss. You like, in both contexts, right? It's like Joker is like worried about getting fired. That's the consequences for him. He's worried about his boss stealing his IP. This is a very real concern in the games industry because you have so many super talented people who can design their own shit. And if they attempt to while working at a company, guess what? Contractually, the company owns that shit. Not great. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's how they work that shit. It's awful. This is a real problem in Silicon Valley and stuff. It's how they control the competition, control all these things.
Wow.
And like, look, Jodie Comer's character is trying to create a lawsuit. She's one woman going against this behemoth, right? You can tell the other workers there, the other people on the dev team, whether it's those asset designers who whip up the fucking super hulking Ryan Reynolds dumb guy, or the dude, I guess that's what it's called. That was some seriously creepy, uncanny valley, by the way, with that guy.
Oh yeah,
it was very creepy. And then you also even Keys' like friend who eventually sticks up for him. He's like, "Yo, Keys is my bro," and I'm fucking like that. That was kind of cool. And then he's like a bunny at one point. I was like, "Dude, why are we having furry humor in this? This is a little bit more risque than a PG-13 Disney movie ought to be."
Well, for sure. But I also thought they were trying to get away with it because wasn't there a pink bunny in Fortnite?
There probably is, but I thought it was interesting. They were like, there's a cop with a mustache who looks like a porno cop, and then a bunny cop. And I'm like, I'm sorry. This is signaling to things and people are aware of it, whether they want to be or not.
For sure.
But no, just getting back to the idea that like, those people, originally all those characters are presented as neutral, like neither heroes, neither antagonists nor protagonists, but they come around to being clearly on the side of the protagonist. And it's like, yeah, they're all against one guy, the fucking boss. The boss is the only guy who's the bad guy. So it has this like Office Space kind of aspect to it. In addition to what's going on in the game world, where literally the security guards, the baristas, the construction workers, the guy who works at the bank tellers are all like uniting together to stop the big bad boss who's basically trying to rule over their existence and never let them progress and grow and become their own free agents, their own player characters, right? So you have the NPCs and the workers, because these things are synonymous. Workers, NPCs, the same thing, is what the movie's very clearly demonstrating to you. And I mean, even this idea of the player characters, like I like the character of Jodie Comer because she doesn't technically work there. She's not really a worker. She kind of almost represents like a sort of almost like middle classdom in the context of this world, because she is a player character, but she's someone who's like basically betraying the other players, even though the other players eventually come with that. Because that's the other thing to keep in mind. The other players become on the side of Guy and the NPCs, right? The other players and then the Twitch streamers too. So it's actually this mass cross-class solidarity that's kind of coming together to be like, yo, we won't stand for this anymore. Because look, the players are getting screwed too. Antoine wants to shut down the servers and exploit them for as much cash as possible.
And start over.
Yeah, start over, which is a very real thing in the game industry. So the movie is actually on a really kind of quite masterful level, tying quite verbatim, literal, real things. Like I said, the idea of the company just exploiting people in terms of like making them rebuy all this content for no reason other than to suck profits. That's a literal real thing. And then the metaphorical thing of the NPCs and their rights and their intelligence and their agency. And so it actually is amazing how many levels they're able to tie together. It's almost like Christopher Nolan worked on this script. That's a joke, people. But either way, there's layers. There's like, you remember the joke on Community about Inception? There's so many layers.
So many layers.
I didn't get Inception. I didn't get it. There's so many layers. I'll never tire of Donald Glover's Troy and the weird scream crying he does.
That man is so talented.
It's so funny. But yeah, so you have the multiple levels of this working together, and then the way it ends is very cool, because it's like They actually achieve the goal. This is why a happy ending sometimes is important. I want to point out, because if it's a happy ending where it's like selfish lone hero gets everything he wants and no one else benefits and I'm an amazing alpha male, well, fuck that shit. I don't care about that. But if it's a happy ending where the people's collective ability to unite actually pays off, that's an inspirational message that's actually important. That's what I'm saying about getting into people's consciousness. You can do something. You can actually change things. Like, so seeing the reward for Guy and they live in a paradise now. Everybody's happy. Joe Keery gets the girl. I'm like, great. If the context is that it was a fight worth actually having, there was actually something that impacts more than one person. The fact that Buddy comes back at the end, and he's like, hey, God, and they have their little moment in the car, son, where it's just like, you're my best friend. Like, that's good, because it was very cute. Yeah, it symbolizes that it's not just about this one fucking person. It's not just about like, oh, me, look at me, I'm so important and special, and I win everything, and I get to be king of the world now. Which, you know, that, as you know, and we'll talk about this in the context of Green Knight, the typical mythological stories are usually about these hero kings who become hero kings at the end, and they're hero kings forever. And I'm not trying to knock all that and say that there's nothing else to it. There's a lot more to it, but fundamentally, like keeping our stories too tied to something like that, where it is just about this one individual who's magical and special and important, and no one else matters. They only matter insofar as they help the hero. It is not something that actually I think can inspire real change in the real world. By definition, it's antithetical to that. Whereas something like what Free Guy's doing, yes, it's still a fucking Disney studio movie with a cheesy premise and colorful colors, but I actually think it's good for the world quite seriously. Is really where I'm going. That's where I'm going. Yeah, I hope people see this movie. I really hope people see this movie, and it's great. Like, it puts the idea in their head of what I'm saying. That's really where I'm going with this. It's an interesting concept, and I don't know if that was something to do with something Ryan Reynolds thought about, or it just happened by accident, or Shawn Levy, or Zach Penn and John Lieberman, or someone else. I don't know. Or Blake Lively. This is all Blake Lively's idea.
It really was. She did it all.
She did it all. She was like, this is how we're going to unite the workers of America. It'd be so funny to hear her talk about this. But yeah, I think it's great, and it's coming at a good time because, you know, just even in the context of Hollywood, we won't get into this. We're going to kind of wrap it up here, but I just think it's interesting because right now, even with Disney and streaming and all these things, like, we're in a weird spot where now, you know, we have Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit. So that's like a kind of a big asterisk post hoc text bit to the whole conversation we had about Black Widow, because we were kind of wanting to lean into this idea that, I think Scarlett Johansson's happy about things turned out. No, she wasn't.
No. I mean,
she
may have been happy with the cut of the film.
I think
she
so.
wasn't happy with how it was released because
exactly,
it cut her salary considerably. Which
so,
I think maybe she probably just expected them to be like, oh my gosh, we're in a pandemic and now we're doing this whole streaming thing, which we weren't going to give you a part of, but maybe we'll give you a little piece of it because you didn't get all of this theater revenue. I think she expected them to like throw her a bone.
Well, the solidarity.
And they were like, nope.
The solidarity she's looking for apparently is with Emma Stone and Cruella. So it's like another thing we did talk about. We didn't release that yet, but that'll come at some point. Maybe when there's a big
is Emma Stone stewing over Cruella?
I think the idea is Scarlett Johansson wants her to, so they can join together. Like I said, they need a collective of people who are all sticking up and fighting against this, you know? Mm-hmm. You know, they need to get SAG behind them as well, to whatever extent they are or aren't right now. So it's interesting. It's an interesting scenario that we're in right now. And that's why I'm saying Free Guy coming at a good time, I think. And I'm sure at Activision Blizzard, I'm sure at these other companies where there's hundreds of people, thousands in some cases, that didn't do anything wrong, who have been just tortured and abused by these fucking sex criminal bosses. They're probably thinking the same thing too. Like, fuck you, quite frankly. This is coming at an interesting time for gaming, for movies, for the world at whole right now. So Free Guy, you're not gonna pretend like, oh, this makes the movie a 5-star movie for me as a movie, but it definitely is an enjoyable movie, good movie. And I think the message in it is what I'm saying is transcends the quality of the movie, and is really a powerful message, I think, if you're willing to consider it. So I'm a big fan. Okay, Dana.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about any of these movies we talked about today?
Oh man, I'm so glad we got to talk about so many movies today.
Yeah, we did. It was like I said, it was like the theme here is the sort of weird summer movie surge we're getting. But I'm not talking about a viral surge. Don't say that's what I meant.
Fingers crossed that's not happening.
That's not. No. We'll
not going to happen.
Get vaccinated. Stop being a baby.
Everybody do it.
Like seriously.
It's almost time for my booster.
Yeah, seriously. All right, Dana. Take care. Thank you for doing this.
Take care.
Get some women. Take them to the Peachtree Dams. I say get liquored up and take them to the Peachtree Dams. Do you know what I mean? You know why? It's a scary thing to give to a guy like me. Do you know what I mean? I say get liquored up and take him to the Peachtree Dams. Do you know what I mean? I say get liquored up and take him to the Peachtree Dams. Get liquored up and take him to the Peachtree Dams. Do you know what I mean? You know why? Final cut. It's a scary thing to give to a guy like me.